And my name is Punk with Toys or Lawrence. You can call me either. Once again, this is Future Punk talking to past Punk. I'm not really sure. A Future Fuller. But this is a Thanksgiving stream, so it is recorded. So there's two reasons. Obviously, Thursday for Thanksgiving. I didn't think anyone would want to come on. And Connor here is not in the States. He's across the pond. So I thought it's easier just to record something. And he doesn't like live streams. Connor, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
Not too bad. Thanks so much for asking me to come on. I'm really looking forward to talking to you. And, of course, happy Thanksgiving to anyone that's watching it now on Thursday evening.
Oh, yes, actually, yeah. Happy Thanksgiving. I could use that right now. I could use a big turkey. It actually sounds really good. But Connor has his own channel, Fuller's Figures. If you haven't been following it, there will be a description below to his YouTube channel and to his Instagram channel. He does wonderful work. He has an accent, but you can get through it. He's not hard to understand, where we all know that there's some accents that are very difficult for people to understand. So how are you so far? How's everything going in your collecting? And
going great, having a wonderful time. The last few years have been really exciting for the hobby, and there's been so much choice and brands and availability since everything has calmed down the last sort of year. It's really been an exciting time. I think any of us that do make any sort of YouTube content are going to struggle in December now trying to come up with a top 10 for the year, because we've just been spoiled for choice. There's been so much out there.
I believe that I've decided that I would do a top 10 G.I. Joe and then a top 10 of other figures that I've purchased. Because when I do my top 10, I do figures that I've purchased. And I was looking at them, like, there's just so many Joes. And since it's so much primarily my content, that I'm like, you know what? I shouldn't be leaving certain things off, like Gargoyles or Elf. Or maybe even leaving off some of the G.I. Joes because they're so good, So I think I'm going to do both. I'm sure someone will ask me, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? It's like, yes, I'm a monkey. I'll do what you want.
No, but that's a good call, because, as you said, there has been so much out in G.I. Joe. It probably does deserve its own category, that it doesn't dilute an overall top 10 for the year, because it might, could be a toss-up between a couple of figures. So
yeah, and let's say if you're collecting like only G.I. Joe and Valorverse, and because you just do, let's say, a military line, that's a lot easier, because you're like, hey, I'm just mixing my military line. But if you're doing, like you say, Gargoyles, and you're picking up other NECA stuff or some of the Boss Fight Studio stuff, there's such there's too many things to pick. And you really have to kind of be like, all right, it's kind of like when people always try and do the Mount Rushmore. Do they do the Mount Rushmore for you guys? Since I know. So the Mount Rushmore is 4 presidents of the United States. And everyone always tries to do, hey, what's your Mount Rushmore? And I've always thought it's stupid, because first off, when it was made, there weren't as many presidents as there are today. Also, they served numerous terms. So when you try to do like a Mount Rushmore of the NBA players, you really should be doing a Mount Rushmore of, let's say, the 80s or the 90s. You should be doing all of them. Yeah. So anyway, I always like talking to guys from other countries, because I like to find out, when we get to the point, how you collected as a kid, how things were distributed, because it's always so different than the U.S. And again, we didn't have the internet back then. So to me, I just always assumed, we went to Toys R Us, there was G.I. Joe, there was He-Man, there was Transformers, there was Star Wars. I've learned that that's not how it always was. And sometimes it wasn't even called G.I. Joe. So I've always found that interesting. And now that we know more, I love hearing how things are today. So
I suppose the internet has opened up a whole world for us as adults, because I only learned a couple of years ago there was a such thing as the Kenner Death Star. I genuinely had no idea that existed for 30 or 35 years of my life. And I saw a YouTube video and I was like, that was a thing. I would have loved that growing up. So
Are you talking about the 3-level one?
yeah, we didn't get that over here. So not only is the internet allowing us to learn older toy lines, or about how other people played back in the day, which is, it does interest me. It fascinates me, because no matter where we're scattered, you're in the States, I'm over here in Ireland. We've got guys in Australia, New Zealand, mainland Europe, the UK. We all played the same. We grew up in different countries. We grew up in different environments, different cultures, but we all played the same with the same toys. We all watched the same cartoons on TV, and we all had such a similar childhood. And now that we're connecting all these years later on via YouTube, as it happens, is the platform that I've really connected with people on, I'm having a fantastic time. And I think I've said it to you before, and said it to other guys, genuinely, it's a lonely hobby. It's something you do on your own, possibly a bit shamefully as an adult, sneaking out of a toy shop with a new figure you're dying to go home and get open. But it's changed. The landscape has changed, and now you get to meet people that are do the same thing you do, have the same interests you have, get passionate about the same lines you're passionate about. So it's the internet has just exploded open a whole world for me, and for I don't speak for others, but for others, the last few years. And it's just been so amazing meeting people like yourself, Lawrence, and getting to have a chat, or getting to watch your content, your take on stuff, and having a chat then in the comment section, which is always enjoyable under the videos.
Yeah, and I think the whole internet, whether it be Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, it's made it not as lonely, because again, I feel like I probably bring this up so much. Yes, I am single, so I don't come home to somebody. But if I came home to, let's say, my kid's mother, and I was like, hey, look at this figure, she'd be like, you wasted more money on that? I think that's how a lot of significant others are.
Yeah.
Is some of them will collect, so they understand, like, oh, you got something cool. I think most of them just look and go.
Well, in a way, I think I always think back to my grandfather, and he had a shed down in the end of his garden, and he loved smoking the pipe, and my grandmother wouldn't allow it in the house. So every evening after dinner, he'd go down to the shed and he'd set up his pipe and he'd poke away at the tobacco, and he'd light that, and then he'd start tinkering around fixing something or repairing something. So if I come up to here and decide I want to take a particular photograph of a figure or try something, it gives me something to do for an hour in the evening time. That's not work related, not family related. It gets you away from a screen, because I'm looking at a screen all day.
Yeah.
And I think even my significant other probably appreciates me getting out of her hair for an hour and unwinding for an hour to do it. So it's my shed to have a puff of a pipe in the evening time sometimes.
And I think photography has added so much to so many people, because now you're not just like playing with a toy, you're photographing it, which no one looks at photography as childish, but playing with a toy is in many ways. We're going to get into that in a little bit. So do you mind me asking how old you are?
I'm 45.
Okay, so I'll be 48 in next month. So we're right in the same age bracket, same age range. So growing up, how was your family life? Were your parents together? Did you have siblings?
Yeah, so growing up, I was the eldest, and which meant I got into toys first, which has significance. We had mom and dad, and we grew up. We typical 3-bedroom house in Dublin, Ireland, which is how most of the houses are over here. And yeah, so growing up then, over the course of the few years, we had siblings. So I had two brothers and a sister. And then I was also the eldest grandchild, which has significance to the toy collecting as well, because I was a little bit spoiled by my grandmother. So yeah, that's possibly how a lot of that started.
Now, how much younger were your siblings?
So the brother next to me, Rory, he's passed away since actually. He was 2 years younger than me.
Okay.
And then my next brother was 6 years younger than me. And then I think my sister was 8. So there was sort of it was nearly stepping stones.
Okay. So your brother that passed away, I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, it was years ago, yeah.
So was it when you guys were children at all?
No, so Rory was, I think he was just hitting, so it was 2011. No, it was 2010,
Okay.
sorry. And it was skin cancer. I don't know how someone growing up in Ireland gets skin cancer, but we're cloudy all the time here. But
No,
yeah.
So you had a built-in play friend at your house, like to play with your toys, like.
Yes and no. So I'm brutal memory, and I love watching guys, and they'd say, I remember I was in such and such a mall in such and such a state, and I went into the such and such a toy store and I picked up this action figure in 1986, and I remember, and I'd be like, I have no memory, but I do remember my first ever action figure. I don't know why it stuck in my memory, and what you guys call a mall, we would call a shopping centre, and it would be maybe a fraction of the size, particularly back then. And there's a local one, and I still live quite near it, and there's a little toy store up on the top floor, and believe it or not, that toy store still exists today. So
Wow.
mom and dad pop store, but still going, and I love to pop in there sometimes just for nostalgic reasons, and that's where a lot of my Star Wars would have been bought. But I remember picking up a Darth Vader and a Stormtrooper, and my brother got the same because we had just seen Star Wars recently. So that was my first exposure to getting a toy, getting a figure. And I remember coming home, and he wasn't really interested in it. So
did your parents make you guys get the same figures so you wouldn't fight over them, or was it just you picked the same?
I can't remember the reason why, whether it was the only two, or what was he just following suit with me. But it was evidence then when we got home. I think he was more into his toy cars, but it meant I ended up having 2 Stormtroopers. So I was a young guy, and I was troop building from an early age.
Army building before any of us were.
And I know it was only an extra Stormtrooper, but yeah. So he and again, now and again, he'd get stuff, and our interest really diverged because we would have both had an interest in Transformers, a little bit of Motu, but then my brother liked the Sectars, he liked the Visionaries, where I always went back to sort of Star Wars was always the fallback, but then as I grew up, we had the Action Force toys, which we got over here, and that, so I kind of always went towards the sci-fi or military, where he went towards a fantasy toy. Yeah, our interest really diverged.
So wait, you're from Dublin, Ireland, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Or in the area? I don't know if it's actually Dublin.
No, right in the heart.
Okay. Because like I said, I tell people I'm from Detroit that don't know. Because I tell you I'm from Mount Clemens, you're gonna go, I don't know what that is, but you tell people you're from Detroit, but you tell anyone you're from Detroit here and you're not, they get all mad. I'm like, you don't live there. I'm like, yeah, you're right, I don't. It's a shithole. I mean, it's awesome. Sorry, guys. One second. All right. So you kind of led into what I was going to ask next was, what other lines of figures did you get into? Usually I ask, like, hey, what did you first get into? But you said it was Star Wars. But then you kind of hinted that you got into G.I. Joe, which was Action Force back then. Or
yeah. So it was Star Wars for the longest time, and I think we used to call them dinkies. They were the toy cars that would Matchbox or Hot Wheels cars. We could
call them dinkies.
Dinkies, they were known as over here. Now I don't know whether Dinky was a company originally, but I think the ones we used to get were Matchbox, and I know you guys have Hot Wheels.
There was it was like I think Dinko. dinky. I know what you're talking about. They're like lesser quality than Hot Wheels or Matchbox.
We always just call them our dinkies. So you'd go
Okay.
around, you'd throw your dinkies on the floor and set up. So there was always those kind of toys. But I remember, I remember being in my auntie's house, and I must have been carrying on, and she said to me, "Hang on, I have a film for you to watch." And this was before most people had VCR players, and I don't know how she had a copy of it, but she had Star Wars, and I was only 4 or 5, and she put it on, and it blew my mind, and I was sucked into it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I think I must have watched it straight away, and it must have been must have been a short time after that we went and got the Star Wars figures in the toy store. So, it was Star Wars for the longest time. And then I remember seeing Return of the Jedi. My uncle brought me to see that in the Ambassador, was the name of the cinema here in Dublin. I remember that well. And then, of course, we got all the Jedi toys. And that's around the time where I would have been, as the eldest, I'd often stay with my grandmother at the weekends, and I'd go down to hers because where she lived, I had total freedom. As I was the older child, you wanted to get out and explore, and couldn't really do that at home. But where she lived, there was a little bit of freedom, and I loved it. But then, of course, on a rainy day, or if we were going to the shopping, she'd pick you up a Star Wars toy, and my just Return of the Jedi collection, it was vast and huge. I loved it. That was so cool. But then it's kind of dried up then, because you had got all the figures that you could have. There was about 20 or maybe 30 figures, and I wouldn't have had them all. But the sort of, as it dried up, things started to change. And that's when I went into a shop one day, and on a blue and red plain kind of card back were these Action Force toys, and they were 5 POA military figures. Now, I used to love growing up with remember the little plastic army figures? You'd get
I was just talking with someone about that on one of these, and those were so much fun because it took no time to set them up.
Yeah.
You didn't care who got killed, and then half hour later, you're redoing it, and if you lost one, you didn't care because you had 5,000 of them.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You'd always get another bag for a couple of pence or cents. And
yeah, they're so much fun.
So for me to see, having had Star Wars, to see a military style figure in 3 3/4 inch with 5 POA with a bit of articulation, I was like, they come with accessories, they come with a weapon, and I was just blown away. So I literally switched overnight from Star Wars to Action Force. And I've two examples. I can't find 2 examples here, just in case some of the US guys mightn't have seen them before. But they're just these. This figure, of course, is I figure at the camera. Like, look at the detail on that. For that's a 40-year-old figure.
I remember having very similar figures. Now that you're showing me that, very similar 5 POA military figures. Not the Sergeant, I think it was Sergeant Rock they did some, but I never knew what they were. And and I don't know how I don't think they're Action Force, because I don't think I ever got Action Force. They're probably still sitting in my bin of G.I. Joe stuff that I don't go through, because I wouldn't put it out. But now I'm dig
into it.
Yeah, now I got it, because I have like my Lone Ranger and Tonto, my original ones that I had.
Oh, lovely.
In that bag, which I'm like, why aren't these worth more money? They're not worth a lot of money. I've seen them. I'm like, I should just buy one with the guns.
and this is another one. This was a favorite of mine. This was modeled on a real SAS soldier from the British Army, and again came with a weapon and came with a bit of rope. And
I like just looking at what you're showing there. That, again, my biggest issue with 5 POA is that Star Wars, they shot the gun like this. And if you had the snowtrooper, he was just going to fall over. Yeah. But those are actually molded, so they're holding the rifle the way they're supposed to be.
Yeah, yes, you can actually get it. And again, like setting up your toy soldiers, it was all about posing these guys.
Yeah.
And of course, then the Big Ben G.I. Joe recent figures modeled very closely on this guy, so that's why I was so excited to get my hands on that one. So
that's a really good figure. I really do like it. I know there have been some complaints that he's not exactly the same as an SAS, but no G.I. Joe is exactly like any figure that they're modeled after.
Yeah, again, it is a fantasy sort of franchise.
It is.
But I don't. It's as close as I'm going to get to this figure.
Yeah,
and I loved it, and I've just
if you really want to customize one to make a perfect SAS figure, or if you want to make a perfect Navy SEAL, the stuff's out there to do it.
Yeah.
Again, that's not what I'm looking for. Again, I look at it as like, they're fighting guys in crimson outfits. They're fighting twins that have no armor on them. One guy with a big metal head. Let's be honest. It's not military, right?
The Alley Viper's camouflage color, is quite questionable.
He might be really good in like a ball pit for kids. Up in there, like, where'd you go?
He disappeared. So yeah, but I literally flipped into that line overnight. And where Star Wars toys were around, I think at the time, $1.99, these guys were retailing at kind of 49 pence. So they were that bit cheaper. So, your mother would have said, no, come on, out of the shop, you're not getting a toy. She might have just said yes more to one of them. Yeah. So, and they were made by a company in the UK called Palitoy. But what happened then was Hasbro bought Palitoy and liked the line and sent them the molds for what Hasbro had coincidentally been selling to the US as G.I. Joe. So then we start getting these, multi-articulated figures in our Action Force packets, and then that grew into then the G.I. Joe line just being sold over here as Action Force International Heroes. So the packaging was the same, just the logo was different.
So when you got those figures and you got the molds, knowing now, you wouldn't have known back then. Weren't a lot of the figures completely different though? Painted different, had different names?
No, so early on there was a couple of differences. So Scarlet was Corden, I think was her name. So she was Coral, and she was blonde.
Coral. Oh no, wait, that's The Walking Dead.
There was, I should have got it out. So Gung Ho was Guacho, and he came with it. With that. And Stalker came then slightly different color scheme. He had a red beret, and I can't think of his name now, and can't think of his name. So there was a couple of differences at the start, but then no, they were just all the same after that.
Which I have to say, Stalker having a red beret actually kind of fits, because even as a kid, I always looked at Stalker. Again, he's from Detroit. So, he's one of my favorite figures, because when you're reading those file cards and you find that there's only, 13 figures and one of them's from your city.
Yeah.
But he always looked French to me.
That's awesome. Yeah.
If you look at that O-ring, he looks French, and he has that beret, and you'd be like, oui. You give him a red one, it actually works out even more than the green beret that he had on.
But the imagination and stuff that was coming out of Palitoy at the time was phenomenal, particularly with the Action Force line, because they had their own range of vehicles and everything. So so when you guys had the G.I. Joe, the 12-inch, they were sold as Action Man in the UK. Yeah. So the idea was to sort of slim down the 12-inch to on the base of the success of the Star Wars of the 3.75. So just use their Action Force soldiers and just shrink them down and remarket them to kids. So that's where that came from. So kind of similar to what Hasbro were doing with G.I. Joe, Palitoy were doing over here in the UK.
But there were other figures, and maybe not where you were. And again, I'm not saying there were, but I believe like Destro, where he's all red in the Baroness, right? Jackal.
So he was the Red Jackal. So he had.
Now, did you have those, or was that elsewhere in the world? Because
No, yeah. So that was he. Again, he was part of the Force Wave, and
okay.
So I don't remember. Did I have a Destro from there, or was he?
So you're saying like during the first big wave of Action Force that were the GI Joes, they were kind of painted different, but eventually they just went to the same figures.
Yeah. So I remember picking up Major Blood, Airborne, Snake Eyes. No, Snake Eyes was in the new packaging, but Major Blood and Airborne was definitely in the Action Force old blue and red packaging.
Okay.
And they were the exact same figures. Who else did I have? I might have had Gung Ho, and I might have had I didn't have Gung Ho. It was a Duke. So I had a couple that came in the red and blue packaging, and then after I don't know, very quickly then it started coming in the Action Force International Heroes packaging, which was the same as GI Joe. It was bright, it was explosions, it was colorful, it had all that detail on it.
I know I was really shocked when I spoke with Shark Eyes, and he's in Australia. And when I thought like all of you guys over there, and I'm kind of lumping you in. I know Australia and Ireland are two different. Wait, they're different. But I thought like overseas, like everyone got, Action Force. And he was like, no, we didn't get Action Force. We just got GI Joes.
Yeah.
And I was like,
we never knew them as GI Joes.
I thought it was. Yeah, you guys didn't know. And he's like, no, we didn't get Action Force. Ours were just called G.I. Joe. And I was like, oh, wait, I thought everyone, like, over in the European countries and everything over there, like, that they got Action Force. But his weren't even made by Palitoy. His were by, like, Australia. What were they called?
Yeah.
He told me what they were. I'm sure he'll if he's here in the future, Thanksgiving, he'll say what it is. But I'm fascinated by that. That's like it's not all Hasbro that was just selling them all across the world. But again, different time, different era where we didn't see things. Again, we didn't have the internet, so we didn't know. And that type of stuff fascinates me because,
like even our cartoon was Action Force.
Yeah, we were all playing the same stuff, but we were playing with different things that were the same.
Yeah.
Like our minds all work the same, which again makes you wonder, like, why is there so much fighting in the world? Like, you give a 6, 7, 8-year-old, you give those kids toys, you pack them all together, they're gonna play together,
Yeah.
But I'm not getting that crap.
No, but true. You're never going to see kids fighting when they're sitting down playing together. So, a lot of truth in what you said there, for sure.
If anyone is wondering, I'm a little under the weather, so that's why I've hit the mute. So if you see me look like I'm coughing, but not hearing anything, that is the reason. Because I've already noticed I've done it 3 or 4 times. So you got into Action Force, which we all know eventually became G.I. Joe for you guys. But were there other toys? I mean, you mentioned Transformers and Motu a little bit, which was He-Man. We were just talking about that with Jay. I never called him Motu. I never called him Master Universe. It was always He-Man.
It was He-Man for us as well. Actually, Motu is only a recent.
Yeah.
More.
I didn't know what Motu was. I'm like, what is Motu? And they're like, Master Universe. I'm like, you mean He-Man?
Yeah, no, He-Man was huge. So again, we're a small country with a small population, but because we're so close to the UK and mainland Europe, we're in a direct trade route. So we were really lucky. We got everything. So anything you guys had, the big brands were on our shelves over here. So we were extremely lucky. And I remember I really put it down to just being really fortunate. I remember getting Optimus Prime on Christmas, and I must have got Soundwave for a birthday. I remember having Megatron. I had a couple of the smaller Transformers. then, and I don't remember the timelines. I honestly can't say which came when. I'm sure someone will jump in and correct me, but I remember He-Man came along, watching the cartoons, seeing the figures on stands. I remember pointing to the figures in a catalogue on Christmas. This, can I ask Santi for these? And I remember Strider was a big one. I loved that
I
He-Man
love
figure.
Strider. I love it. He's
He
one of
was
my
a
favorite
cool
ones.
figure. And I got him one Christmas. So yeah, He-Man was huge. So any of the franchises came out for that period, early 80s up to the 90s. We got them. We grew up with them. They were our toys, we had experiences with them. We had with the cartoons, and that was another thing, that you'd see a cartoon and the storyline, and then you'd run, meet up with your friends, and he'd have the corresponding figures that you wouldn't have, and you could play the game. And it was such a playtime back then was a community thing to do with your brothers, your siblings, or pals on the street. So going back to what you said earlier, it's not surprising we've all reached out and found each other over the internet now and in later life.
Give me 1 second. I'm stopping the cam and hitting mute.
No, you're fine.
Give me 1 second. I'm sorry.
There's nothing worse than feeling under the weather. It's awful. And in fairness, anyone watching, Lawrence was, with the time difference, he was trying to get me down to a time that suited both of us. So this was my suggestion. So it's unfortunate that you're unwell. I'm sorry about that.
When we agreed upon it, I didn't feel as bad. I actually feel really good right now, but my nose at times is starting to run. And you'll see a lot of YouTubers, and I'm kind of the same way. Like if I get up during my live stream, I usually stop the camera because I don't know. I think I used to watch It's Chad, Articulated Chad. He always does it. And I just, no one wants to see you get up and walk around. No one wants to see you eat on camera. Taking drinks is one thing because you're just taking like sips. But but again, like no one wants to hear me cough or blow my nose. And a lot of people might look at it like that's so rude, but it's like it's not like we're in the same room and you're catching my germs and everything.
No, you've been courteous enough to make sure we're separated by 5,000 miles of ocean. I do appreciate that.
So yeah, like I think like I had a bunch of He-Man figures, but I had a few vehicles, but not many. And there were friends that had so many. But I just remember He-Man, it was a bigger figure. They were always easy to stand until they just got too wobbly. But for the most part, you could always stand them. You were kit bashing like crazy, popping arms off, putting different arms on.
That was a big one.
And that's how they were supposed to, until they got too loose and you could no longer, the arm would just fall down. I always loved Battle Armor He-Man and Skeletor, but eventually the roll cage there would eventually not stay in place. But I used to love going over other friends' house and just playing with those because
I never had. So, like I said, so on the one hand, we were lucky. We got a lot of toys. Like I said there, I was lucky and I was fortunate to have stuff. But when it came to big toys, I don't matter, my mom and dad just couldn't afford it. But I never had vehicles or play. I did for Star Wars and some Action Force, but I didn't have any. We never got play sets over here. They weren't a big thing, but I certainly didn't really have any big vehicles. But I remember that He-Man, the Battle Armor He-Man, I'm watching the adverts for it on TV and been mystified how it worked. My childlike brain couldn't figure out. It was just the same thing. I was like, but what happens when you smash it so many times? Does it just have like 20 new chest plates?
The He-Man commercials were so awesome because you had the attack track, which was just like flip, right? Flip.
Yeah.
And it would move. Then you had that dragon one that it would spin and land, and it would move forward. It was different. Where if you had the Mauler, like I had the Mauler and the Mobat, and of course, once you started playing with the Mauler, you're like, I'm not playing with that slow ass tank right there. Even on slow, it was faster than the Mobat. But those were just they were so much fun. And they did such cool commercials. When I did my review of the Thunder Punch He-Man, I had to start it with the commercial because all I remember was Master Power, 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 power. Some guys got it, some guys don't. And I was so disappointed because that was the one that had the cap, and when you would move it, well, this is Mattel Creations, you could do a cap version. Like the one that the Power Punch He-Man through Mattel Creations, you could move him, and then he made a noise when he stopped. I'm like, you know what? This is Mattel Creations. Charge me a little more. Give me a bag of caps because I'm an adult, and let me have Thunder Punch He-Man again. You know, you don't have to do it for every figure. Just like Cobra Kai.
The sulfur smell when you let it off.
So this is a kind of a new question that it's come up a couple times, but when I was talking with Usual Mike out of Australia, he said he didn't see the Star Wars movies till he was older, but he had all the figures, and it kind of came. And I talked about this with Jade Bartlett too. Star Wars was always hard to play because I had seen the movies, and I felt like you had to play the exact same way as you saw the movies. Like you didn't veer off from it. And I think one of the things that you had while you were talking that it kind of dawned on me when you were like, yeah, they had a lot of figures and I had a lot of them, not all of them, but they weren't making different figures. And it was like there was no imagination when it came to playing Star Wars. You just played exactly what it was. Maybe you fly the Millennium Falcon around a little bit, but you know how you're not going to kill Han or Chewie or Leia or anything. But they never invented new figures. With G.I. Joe, He-Man, Transformers, were always inventing new figures that they didn't have to follow a movie or a story. But you had mentioned that you had seen Star Wars before you got the figures.
Yeah. So
did you have to play Star Wars that way too?
So what you've brought up a very interesting topic, and it's more relevant to my collecting life now than as a kid. So there was restrictions in Star Wars. You had to sort of stick within the storyline, but I was happy to mix my toys. So, and probably, we probably were fortunate that I had Star Wars, I had some Action Force. So, no, if I was playing, I'd be happy enough to mix up my toys and try to kind of come up with a new scenario. And what often I'd go over and my granddad would finish work. I'd drive out to my grandparents' house with him on a Friday, and we'd have dinner, and he'd go in and sit down and watch a movie, and I'd watch it with him. And that's where I watched all the James Bond films, all the Clint Eastwood films, all the World War II films, all the oldies that we call them now, were the films that were sort of coming on TV back then. And I'd watch something like Where Eagles Dare or The Guns of Navarone. And that would just give me such a cool idea that the Empire have this massive weapon. We now call it Starkiller Base. But anyway, and the rebels, or an assortment of rebels, would have to get together and try and climb up and destroy this massive cannon on the mountain. So I kind of allowed what I was seeing on TV flow into my playtime, my imagination.
Yeah. Like I said, that whole Star Wars thing, I remember when it came up with the Usual Mike, and then when I was talking with Jay was like, they were like, that was how we played. Like that was it. Like, and I think that's why Star Wars wasn't fun. Where it's different now. There's so many different characters, so many different things you can do. Disney doesn't seem to care, so why should I care? Anyway, it's kind of one of those questions now that I thought, like, I want to ask, because I think that was one of the things that also killed Star Wars. Obviously, once people saw articulation in G.I. Joe, I can remember where I was the first time I saw a G.I. Joe commercial. I can remember what I was doing, what I was playing with, what I said to my dad, what he said to me, all to the point when I walked into Sears and saw a G.I. Joe and asked my dad. Like, I can remember that vividly like it was yesterday. There's like certain things that do ring out in my mind, that I can remember.
But
not
it was
everyone
a game
remembers.
changer, getting all that
Yeah.
articulation in such a small figure as well. So I
Yeah.
was the same. So we didn't have adverts for the Action Force ones that came out. So I remember going into a toy shop, picking up Major Blood. Didn't know anything about this character.
And he was called Major Blood.
He was Major Blood.
Yeah.
He looked cool. He came in a backpack and a gun, so 2 accessories. I'm in, game on. And I picked him up and came home, and I opened it up, and there was all this extra articulation, bar one arm, which I couldn't figure out. It was like,
you know what? To this day, why did his arm have no articulation?
I could.
At least you didn't have to worry about the thumb breaking.
But again, vividly remember taking it out. And I can bend the knees. I can move the arm and the armbands, and just been blown away by the extra articulation, and just again opened up a whole new wave of playtime.
Yeah, I like that. So those were the toys you played with. Now, as you start to get older, as most of us do, we don't have a choice. Did you continue to play or collect toys, or did you start to put it away and gravitate to new things, whether it be sports, biking?
Yeah,
I'm gonna say you didn't get into skateboarding, because anyone that has been into skateboarding talking to me, they bring it up. No, I love going there.
No, we did. So growing up on Air Street, we went through a phase of skateboards, but we were literally, I think they were big ones. They were very wide. And I think mostly what we do is we'd be kneeling on them and scooting up on one knee. We were never, you'd see stuff on TV, guys in skater parks and doing all these tricks in LA, and we'd be fascinated with it, and we'd go out and no, it never took off. I don't know whether probably didn't have the same kind of smooth kind of roads as they did in the States or something at the time. But
in California, not here in Michigan. I can tell you that, not here in Michigan.
So yeah, we went through a phase, but of course, there was the BMX thing. So one Christmas we got BMXs, me and my brother, and that's it. We were gone. We were feral children then. Of the wild. You'd get up. The freedom that BMX gave you was just unbelievable, and the capacity to just disappear and go on adventures and leave your state or leave your area, and it was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I think Lenny was saying, like, when he kind of got into BMX and everything, if you have a skateboard, yeah, sure, you can kind of skate places, but you're not using it too much as a vehicle for transportation. Or whether you had, we all had BMX bikes. We didn't get mountain bikes. We didn't get 10 speeds. If you had a 10 speed when you were like 13 years old, you were made fun of, all right? You were the kid with the 10 speed. The good thing was you could get away from anyone making fun of you on their BMX bike. But once you had that BMX bike, there was freedom. There's trails in the woods. There's going up to the shopping centers, going to your friend's house that are further than walking distance. And again, back then in the 80s, parents didn't really worry about it. I really wish we could go back to those times.
I know,
for stuff like that. Even though it was actually kind of funny. Well, not funny. I remember the whole Adam Walsh thing. It happened here. You know the story of Adam Walsh, right?
No.
You know who? God, you'd have to know. His dad, John Walsh. He does not unsolved mysteries. He does. God, I wish I had a chat to tell me what. America's Most Wanted.
Okay.
Again, you probably don't get a lot of America's Most Wanted because you're not. But his son was kidnapped, and they never found the body.
Okay.
And he'll say that he knows who killed him. The guy kind of confessed to it. He's now deceased. But when that happened, they did movies about it, or they did a movie. And I remember my mom making me sit down and watch it before. It's like you see Adam and then he's gone. And I just remember like, oh my God, look, there's the G.I. Joe aisle, because there was like the end caps full of G.I. Joes. And of course, we go to Kmart or wherever, and my parents would leave me at Kmart in the toy aisle, and they would go do their shopping.
Yeah.
And after that, it never happened again. Like they were, until I was old enough. And that was the first big case that came to light. There obviously were other cases of kids that were abducted. But and again, I don't want to say the 80s are better than now or whatever, but there was a freedom in those times that kids are never going to get back. Parents are never going to get back the freedom to say, hey, get on your bike and get out of here. I'll see you at dinner time.
But no, funny enough, so you referenced the case there, and you said everything kind of changed after that. It's something similar happened here in Dublin, and we were kids. We got BMX. We also we would spend our summer, so we'd always be off school for June and July, and my mother would just literally, the day we finished school, pack us into her little Volkswagen Beetle and drive down to County Wexford, and we'd a little holiday mobile home down there. And we'd spend the summer down there. My dad would come down on weekends. He'd spend his 2 weeks holidays down there. And again, we'd have, he'd have to come down. He'd have to have the BMXs in it, and we'd have total freedom. So, like, we literally went, and my kids slag me now or make fun of me for saying it, but literally went barefoot from July till the end of August till I was forced to put shoes on to go back to school. And, we had that freedom growing up. And, of course, the BMXs just gave us more freedom where we could go further. But there was a case over here. There was a young guy back in the 80s went missing. His name was Philip. The name resonates with me. And there was posters up everywhere. It was on the news. It was on TV programs. And everything changed. And, yeah, I remember that, you had to be home at a designated time, or where you had to be dropped off somewhere, you had to be collected somewhere, and it's like that. As you said, that case, there was a similar case over here.
Yeah,
I vividly remember everything changing. It became a different world, and God loved the family of this boy. He was never found either. So
yeah, and I'm willing to bet that if we talk to people in Australia, and all over, there'd be something like that. Because again, no internet. So again, when I'm like, the guy, I'm like, he's on America's Most Wanted. You're like, oh, wait a minute, why would you know about America's Most Wanted? But again, he's so famous. He's so famous now, and I remember my mom making me watch it because she knew, like, she let me do exactly what this mother did so many times, because again, it wasn't negligent back then. Because that's just what you did. And like never again. And it sucks, like I said,
yeah.
Kids are never gonna get the same freedom, and parents are never gonna get the same freedoms that we let our kids do it, and you didn't think anything about it. The worst thing that you were gonna worry about was Johnny was getting home with a broken arm because he tried jumping his bike over a fucking car and couldn't do it.
The times I came home covered in muck, covered in dirt, or covered in drenched because I fell in the river. No, for sure. But I would argue that I would parent my kids differently than how I was parented, and maybe it's I was wrong, or maybe I should have thought about it a bit more. But I certainly didn't give my kids the amount of freedom me and my brother had. Yeah, like you said, we got those BMXs. We became feral. We were wild. We were just, God.
We became feral.
We come back when we were hungry, and that was the extent of it.
So again, you get your BMX bike. Did you get into sports or anything like that? Did you still continue to collect anything?
Yeah. So in the early days, I always had an interest in toys, and I'd say, right up to when the Ninja Turtles hit. Ninja Turtles were probably the last toy line I bought.
Okay.
Where I got a couple of turtles one Christmas. But that was around the time then that I was getting that bit older. We always played sports. We'd always play, I'm going to have to use the word for your audience, and I'm going to leave a taste in my mouth. we'd play soccer. We call it football, but we would go out and play football for our soccer for hours on end, and then you'd play for your local team. So sports became much more prevalent then.
Listen, viewers, it's okay that he's calling it football. We all know what he means. It's soccer.
But and again, so we would be down in Wexford as kids. We would literally play sports all day, every day, and you could see then how toys were becoming a less and a less part of our lives, and then you kind of get to the age where you become, which is kind of horrible. You hit those teenage years, and the hormones change, and you become self-conscious. You become self-aware, and you don't see your friends playing with toys, or so where you used to talk about an advert, you might have seen, hey, see the new He-Man figure, and someone would go, yeah, I'm not playing with toys, they're for kids, and boom. So yeah, I remember that sort of transition from, like, we literally put them down one day and stopped playing with them because we'd so much else going on in our lives, with football training or swimming. And
see, I think for me, because I got into skateboarding, it's still a very toy. It's a very toy-eccentric thing. Like, you're looking at the new skateboards that have come out, new wheels, new trucks. You're watching the new videos, which is basically watching, the new episode of He-Man or G.I. Joe or Transformers. So to me, I kind of feel like for me growing up, like, you kind of got out of toys, and I went right into skateboarding. But you'd go to the skate shop just to look. Like, you went to Toys R Us. You might not be buying anything, but your parents would be like, yeah, we can go by the toy store, but you can't get anything. You're just like, you're mental noting what you're going to get when you have the chance. And that off chance your parents are going to be like, well, why don't you just get one thing? So for me, like, that was skateboarding, going to the skate shops, looking at all the new boards, trying, again, of course, you went from $3 figures to, $55, $60 boards that you can't afford to say. So I kind of feel lucky that way. But I got to ask you something. I've never asked anyone this. You obviously struggle to call soccer what it is, soccer. What do you call football, the non-soccer version?
So we would call it
American football.
We just call it American football.
Okay.
And it doesn't, like, it doesn't have any real following over here. Now I know
it shocks me. It's just it shocks me because it is so big here. But soccer is so not big here after the age of 13.
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind the US national team. They've a pretty good football team, actually, because some good players. And it's huge around the world. So, like, if I'm over in Spain on my holidays, and we all have we've a terrible league here in Ireland. A lot of us in Ireland would follow the English league, the Premier League.
Yeah,
and we'd have affinity with clubs over there. So, and then all the leagues around Europe, whoever wins the leagues or whoever comes second, go into this big European Cup. And it's massive. It's watched all over the world. And even, like, guys in South America would have a keen eye on what's going on in the European Champions League, and African nations would be in it because they'd have African players and South American players playing for all the different European teams. And I can go over to any dinky little bar in Spain on a Wednesday night if I was over there, and there it is. There's my football on the TV, no problem. Might be in a different language, but you'll always get no matter where you go in the world, you'll always get to watch the match, except the States.
Except the States, like Saturday and Sunday. Today is college football. Tomorrow is the NFL. If you walked into a sports bar and you looked around and there was like all the college football, and you're like, yeah, could you turn on that soccer game? I bet like the music would stop. Everyone would look at you and be like, they'd find like the smallest TV and be like, here you go.
So that's the modern equivalent of walking into a saloon, the door swinging behind you,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the piano stops, and everything.
Exactly. There'd be a screeching. But you realize how arrogant we are that we wouldn't even like. We could easily say, "Well, that's world football." We're like, no, you know what? Ours is football. We'll give you soccer.
Yeah. So again, it's just that we just call it football, and it's not used here, and it's funny, and so. But I'm passionate about football or soccer. I love it. I would spend probably a couple of evenings a week watching a match on TV. I'll watch all the highlights at the weekend. It's the first thing I'll talk about and work with my colleagues on a Monday morning. It's such an important part of my life, that even now. So there was, so you start playing football as coming into your teenage years, and it stuck with us as adults.
No, and that is absolutely great. I mean, it really is great because, I mean, again, we don't have to like the same things to be friends. I cannot stand watching soccer, football, whatever you want to call it. Though, and I talk to a lot of my skateboard friends, and they're just like, I don't understand football. I don't understand. How do you watch that? I'm like, what are you talking about? The guy is like, there's too many rules. I'm like, listen, I understand it's a completely different mentality than skateboarding, but I didn't follow sports at all growing up. I skateboarded. And then it came to that point where I'm like, hockey's pretty damn awesome. Football is amazing.
Hockey is cool.
Basketball can be good, but the players today have made it awful. To me, baseball is super boring. My daughter now is golfing, and I think golfing is probably the one thing less boring to me than soccer. She asked me, she's like, because I mean, she just started playing. Her mom came up with this idea for school. I'm like, whatever. She's never brought up that she wanted to play, but she seems to absolutely love it. She seems to enjoy it. So I will support her. And again, I will mention to her every chance when she brings up soccer, golf. I'll be like, hey, it's not too late to start skateboarding, right? And my ex would be like, you got to stop doing that. I'm like, she gets the joke. Like, Olivia understands the joke. But she asked me the other day, she's like, she goes, would you want to go to my golf banquet? And I was like, yeah, why wouldn't I? She's like, well, I don't know. All her matches were during school hours. So they're during work hours. And she didn't even always play because there was only four girls on the team. And so she was new to it, but she's just a natural with that type of stuff. And so I haven't seen her play or anything. I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't I? I'm like, it's important to you. So that's all that matters to me, that you're enjoying. I don't have to enjoy something that I don't have to like something for me to enjoy it if you are enjoying it. I mean, that's what kids are. Like, again,
and
if they played soccer and if they were playing on a Friday night, I would be there, if they did stuff like that, when I had time. So I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. Like, why wouldn't I? And then she got all giddy and she's like, no one from my golf's ever met you. Which makes me feel good. Like, she's still a daddy's girl.
But you touched off something really interesting there, and you said that you don't know anything about it because your daughter's passionate about it. Of course, you're going to go along and support her or whatever else. But even that when you come across us guys that go and make videos of the toys or something like you do the gargoyles. I don't really. I remember the cartoon. I never bought the toys, but you watch anything about it, something that a video and a guy is passionate about what he's looking at, there's a joy in that, an absolute joy in that. So of course you're going to get huge joy in going along to the banquet,
and that's like we're going to get to the whole YouTube thing, but I gotta say, like, that is one thing that we've tried expressing to some other YouTubers, that it's kind of like, listen, you don't have to be the first. People want to hear what your opinion is. I know now, again, I don't act stupid. I don't act like, oh my God, I don't realize this. People like to see my animation when I'm talking. They like to hear me, whether I get mad or excited over something. I don't understand it, but it makes me feel good that people are stopping to watch the videos, comment on them. To me, that means a lot. But you do that when you get to when you start to like certain, YouTubers. Just like for the most part, if Tom Cruise puts out a movie, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch it. I don't care about Tom Cruise, but he puts out good movies. So if he's in a movie, I'm almost always going to watch it, just because it's probably going to be fairly decent. I can't say I'll do it for everything. I missed The Mummy. But Top Gun 2, I've watched way too many times.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I didn't go and see it in the cinema. And
you missed
I regret it. I regret it because it's okay. I know everyone's going to say it's a New Hope ripoff with the trench run and all, but it was so good. It was they did it right. If they were if they had to do a sequel, that's the way they needed to do it. And I think they hit the nail on the head. It was a fun watch.
So Jay and I just talked about it. Jay Bartlett, he'd never seen Top Gun, so he doesn't know anything about Top Gun 2. But I was the same way. Like, how can you make a Top Gun 2 30 plus years later? It's just not going to work. But you had Tom Cruise going, you need to go to the movies. That's why they would not release it on Paramount Plus when the pandemic started. That's why they held on to it. And then you're going, all right, so this movie's like 3 years old. And then I started watching YouTubers that were fighter pilots that do YouTube channels, and they're like, you need to see this movie in the theater. And the more and more you watch it, you're like, all right. And I'm so glad that I saw it in the theater. I don't watch it here. You got the sound bar, and you get nice sound, but it's not the same.
No,
but
the big screen.
Yeah, I tell everyone, I'm like, that movie they give you all the 80s feels. They give you a modern update of everything. They're not living off the 80s. It's just a guy from the 80s. Obviously, they link back to that movie. I don't think you could do a third one, and I don't think they want to do a third one. I don't think he wants to do a third one. I'm sure, the box office would love to do a third one. But he did everything right. Like, that movie, sure. It worked. Everything, and it doesn't happen all the time. It happened with Iron Man. Everything worked perfectly.
Yeah.
And it fell into place. And I remember thinking, the movie's been done for like 2 or 3 years. He's saying you gotta go to the theater. But then I started watching YouTubers that were fighter pilots talking about it. And even the ones that said, like, is it all realistic? No. But I also understand it's entertainment.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were saying, like, yeah, some of these maneuvers. Yeah, like some of the maneuvers that you see, they're too close together, but they're maneuvers that you do. But again, you have to get it in a shot. So, like that snake maneuver they do, he's like, that's a real maneuver. They're just not as close. But again, it's a movie, it's entertainment. But they're talking about the terminology, everything, and you're like, that's awesome. If they get that much right, that just shows how much he puts into everything that he does.
Yeah, for sure. That was awesome movie. I really enjoyed it. Because you're kind of scared when you get a part 2 or a remake nowadays, and you're really apprehensive going to see it or going to watch it, or like, I suppose the Ghostbusters one was a bit of a flop. They did, but when it comes to
I really like that movie.
Oh no! The recent one I liked. I'm talking about the Force remake they did a couple of years ago.
The female one.
Yeah,
And that one doesn't count.
no, but they missed the mark on it. I'm not going to get into the details. It didn't
It wasn't
hit.
good.
It
It
just didn't
was
hit.
right. It was a remake rather than a continuation.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about this. I don't know if you watch Cobra Kai.
Yeah, I mean, I think I need my daughter to fill me in. I've been watching it with her, and I think I have a few more episodes to go in the last series. Or have I started yet? I need to check in with her. So I've held off because I want to sit down with her and watch it. So
it's so good. It's so good, and
really,
they did a good job of connecting those movies and making showing you where those characters are, but introducing new characters that you learn to love. I'm like, that's how you're supposed to do it. Cobra Kai
Cobra Kai makes fun of itself,
yes,
as well as telling its own story and being its own thing. And again, that was a big part of the 80s of growing up with your friends. It's that ability to make fun of each other in a respectful way, or be, if you're telling a joke, you're kind of the butt end of the joke. And they were able to write that into a script and get performers to come in and do it on screen. And I think that's where Cobra Kai really hit the mark. It's serious when it needs to be serious. It's good storytelling when it needs to be. It's corny when it needs to be. But
it's so much fun.
It's fun.
And you'll binge watch it in a whole weekend, and then you're like, I gotta wait another year. Now it's been over a year because of strike and everything, and I think this is the last season. And I'm like, oh, this is disappointing. But you don't want something to go too long and get it ruined.
It can get tired. That's true.
So I'm assuming you graduated from college, or graduated from high school. Then you went on to what I think you guys call it university.
Yeah, I went to university twice. So when I left school, I studied biology, and I was in my final year in that, and I didn't kind of like the way it was going. So I kind of decided then that when I graduated, I was going to kind of change fields. So what I done was, long story short, I ended up there was a local business up for sale, and I'd sort of saved up enough money that the bank were willing to roll me. So I ended up buying that business, and what we call a news agent. It's a small shop over here that sells newspapers, magazines, and greeting cards, stationery, of course, toys. I got into all that, and I did that for 10 years. I was lucky. That's where I met my wife, and had a great time doing that. And so there's a guy next door had a supermarket. He kind of wanted to buy the business, came to me a few times. So in the end, I think my wife was second on my wife was pregnant on my second daughter, and I just said, you know what, the time is right. I need to get out of here. So got out of that, sold out of that, and start working nights. So I bought into another business with a guy, and we were working nights, which was great because my kids were small, so I was kind of there during the day. Granted, I was going around like a zombie from The Walking Dead most of the time, but
they don't really. I don't think like little kids realize that. They just know daddy's there, mommy's there, and
yeah, so it was cool. So I was just, I was there a lot when they were smaller, in the smaller years or the younger years. But I remember dropping my daughter to play school one day, and I was like, now what am I supposed to do? So I decided to go back to college. So I applied for what we call a mature student place in a college here, and I just got a phone call one day, and the lady that runs the department said, yeah, would you come in and meet me? And I said, yeah. She goes, okay, come in tomorrow at 11 o'clock. So we went in and sat down, and like this, she was just chatting me, and what are you doing? And I said, oh, look, I'm sort of, I ran my own business. I'm in a partnership now at the moment, but I kind of see the writings on the wall. The industry's going to change, and I've all this free time. And she was like, oh, there's a place there if you want it. So I went back to college in my 30s, and I'd done a degree in economics. And yeah, so that's how I ended up where I am now.
Okay, so you went to college, didn't care about your major. You bought a a weird shop. You basically had a printing shop, is what you're saying.
No. So you guys you'd see, newspapers, magazines.
Yeah.
So we call them news agents over here in Ireland and the UK.
Okay.
But they'd sell a mixture of stuff. So it'd be real like a local store. So
okay, all right.
Sort of thing.
I get exactly what you're saying. So you ran that for 10 years. You said that's where you met your wife.
Mm-hmm.
Did she work for you?
We're going to move on. We're not going to answer that question.
That is abuse of power.
Well, no, we knew each other before then because she had been working there when the other guy owned it. So,
so you bought into. Oh, listen.
Let's just say things fell into place.
So you meet your wife. Now, during any of this time, were you collecting anything? Or were you just void of like comic books, toys, anything like that?
No, I was collecting ridiculous amounts. So what happened around that time was
were you collecting ridiculous amounts of toys or just collecting in general?
No, so So I suppose growing up in the teenage years, I was a huge music fan, and I was buying lots of CDs, and where there were some artists you'd have to get like imports from Japan and imports from the US, and I just loved all that. So I had a massive music collection, had all my childhood toys, or most of them, that survived my mother's donations to local charity sales. But then something happened around what I'm going to say around the 2000s, maybe 2002. This website came online and launched and got very popular called eBay.
I've heard of it.
And I got into the habit. So you'd sit down at your computer and you'd put in, and some guy over in Austin, Texas, happened to be just selling one of his old G.I. Joe figures for $5, and I think the postage was only maybe another $5. So I was like, buy. So I was buying stuff off eBay. So I filled out my childhood collection, and it meant then that, with the exception of the last 17 of the Star Wars, because I don't know, I just never had an interest in those figures, but I was able to fill out my full run of Star Wars. I filled out everything G.I. Joe from the beginning right up to 1986, where for me that's where my interest stopped in the line, because of my age, nothing to do with the quality of the figures. It just died off for me. I picked up a few bits and pieces from the likes of stuff like Battlestar Galactica or everything was available. So anything I had as a kid that I wanted to sort of fill out, I was able to track it down on eBay and just fit, completely. And I suppose that's when I was a collector. I don't see myself as that now. That's when I was a collector. And so pretty much filled out my childhood collection, bulked it all out, had all those kind of lines pretty much up to date. Figure-wise, not always the vehicles. I always never really went mad for the vehicles. It was always the action figures where I had the interest. Then DVDs came along, and of course, I'd start off by buying up all the getting the DVDs of the pop culture stuff that we watched: Star Wars, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones. And then I'd go, hang on a second. I remember sitting with my grandfather watching all those Clint Eastwood films. So as they came out, I'd go and get Dirty Harry and whatever else was coming out, Clint Eastwood. And then I'd be like, oh, I loved watching Arnold Schwarzenegger films. He was my, one of my heroes.
You still have DVDs that are still wrapped, don't you?
No.
You don't?
No. So what happened was, I said earlier, my brother died, as I said earlier. And so as a family, we had to go up and clear out his house where he was living. And it was the most horrendous thing I've ever had to do, was to stand there and get his CDs, get his clothes, put them in bags, we bring them off to different charity shops, or we had to dump some stuff, and it was a horrible experience. So I came home to my wife and sat down. So we used to have a room with all these shelves with everything on it, and I had all the lines of my CDs and all the figures in front of them, all DVDs down the bottom, and I just looked at it, and it was just a realization that I don't need all these materialistic things. Someday, someone's going to have to come along and throw them all out, and I just had this flash of shock. I don't know what the word is. So I slowly started getting rid of it all, and over the course of a few weeks, I completely eradicated anything that was sort of materialistic. Got rid of all my figures, all my toys, all my CDs, all my DVDs, eradicated everything, and literally, it was a very freeing experience, by the way. There's no regrets, there's no disappointments. I did that at the time. It was such a freeing experience, and I remember coming into the room. Then it was literally just sort of the four walls, the TV, and a couple of photographs up, and maybe I think there was a potted plant in the corner, and I was like, okay, wow. this is the space I need right now, and so that was. A couple of it did hold on to a few bits, kept them up in the loft, the attic as we call it. There was a few sort of choice toys that I just couldn't part with, but the majority of the stuff, just let it go. And
even the stuff from your childhood?
Yeah. So wow. From my childhood. So what I done was a lot of it bagged up, did kind of mixed bags, and just went to different charity shops, dropping them off. That no one person was going to come along and get lucky and get a full run of 1984 G.I. Joe figures. They were just split up, and hoping that lots of people would benefit from it or lots of kids, because you don't know who's.
So you didn't sell all the stuff?
No, I did. Some of the stuff that I held off, then I sold later on eBay. There would have been someone just. And I look at it now, I think I have a photograph somewhere. I can't remember. Remember the green Ninja with G.I. Joe? I think it was a mail away.
Yeah.
I think I sold it for like $14 at the time, because they weren't going for big money back then. So, and there was the whole rigmarole of taking a photograph, connecting your camera, uploading it to your computer. It was
Yeah, you know what? You're right. Around that time, it wasn't you didn't just take it on your phone and just upload it. It was a whole ordeal.
Yeah. So that put me off selling it. So I had a major clear out back then. And like I said, it was at the time, it was such a freeing experience. Wow. Don't regret it. Don't have any qualms about it. It was what I needed to do at the time. Unfortunately, I've probably gotten undone a lot of that work now since. Yeah. But
there are so many people that now you're a completely different story, but there's a lot of people that they just love the hunt of searching for action figures. They buy it, 3 months later they sell it. And I've talked to a guy, he actually texted me yesterday. And when I got to know him, he's like, I just love the hunt. I love driving. I love the search for it. That's why I don't like ordering from BBTS or whatever. There's certain stuff that he keeps, but he's like, I'll sell it, 3 to 6 months later. I want to go search for it.
Yeah. That's a big part of the hobby now, for sure.
Yeah. I'll say, when I found a few things recently, some of the Target exclusives, I'm like, I like this. I just hate going to 5 different stores knowing that there's nothing there. Mm-hmm. That's where you get. I don't mind walking in, and sometimes just to see something that you might not even buy, but it's like, oh, hey, check out that new Turtles. I found that Turtles 4-pack that was like $150, $125, whatever, just to find it and look at it and be like, this is pretty cool. I know people are hunting for this. Boom, it's here for someone. Hopefully not someone that's looking just to flip it.
Yeah, and it was like going to the toy shop back in the day was such a big experience. You know, the wonderment and imagination that you walk in, you see all these different colored boxes, and what am I going to pick, and what's in budget. So even still doing that today, you know, I can understand how that's where guys get the taste for the hunt.
Yeah.
They want to go from shop to shop to shop to find the one that they were searching for, just like back in the 80s. Yeah, for sure.
And then there's some people that just want the toys. Like, you know, I like the hunt, but if I can just get it, awesome. You know, obviously I'd be getting stuff way early because I'm doing reviews, and it does help to have them out earlier than other people. But at the same time, I've grown such a strong subscriber base that, you know, for the most part, if I put out a G.I. Joe video, it's going to get over 1,000 views fairly easily. There's some that still struggle. It all depends on when you drop them. I've noticed that.
No, but even still now, I want to hear what you have to say about a figure. Unfortunately, and I've funny enough, myself and Chris from Mod Extra Games and Collectibles, we made joking with each other that if he gets a figure before me, or if I get it before him, we won't watch the video until we've got the figure, done the video. And now and again, you'll see us comment or something. If I put a video up or he put the video up, said, sorry, broke the rules, had to watch. There's definitely, I know you've a couple of videos up recently where that stuff hasn't come out here yet. So my Lawrence viewing for the moment is blocked. We won't be doing that. But as soon as I get my own opinion and do it, I'll be straight over to you or straight over to one of the other guys to see what you have to say about it. And I want to see I'm nearly looking for, I'm a bit of an oddball, but I want to see a different opinion. I want to hear if I love something, if someone else didn't like it, oh, why not? And, you know, I'm always looking for that difference of opinion.
And again, that's why, I mean, I do my reviews in the way that it's firsthand. So it's right when you see it. It's not after you've had it for, 3 weeks. And it's like, okay, well, you know what? I've worked on this and that. And I know Chris said he does it where he opens them up, and then he comes back to it, a week later to show you how it's been. And I had a very similar idea. That's why I actually have that turntable, was I was going to go back at the end of the month and kind of do a quick retake of all the figures. And then it was just like, that's just so much work. It's hard to remember what figures you might have got the month before, because you got to give it time. And when I heard he was doing that, I was like, I had a similar idea, but I just thought it was such a good take, because it's like, here you're showing right away, but hey, you know what? We also know, like, first impressions don't mean everything. It's the first impression, but give it a week and you may think the figure is really good, or you might be like, oh, I thought this was really good, but after a week, his arm won't stay straight and different things like that.
But I can bounce around then. So if I get a figure and I open it up and mess around with it, or do a video or whatever else, I can then go and say, right, I've got a control point where I can go and watch a Lawrence video where he gives me a look at his experience of unboxing, taking out his experience of our initial experience, our first experience of seeing that figure. And is it similar to mine, or is it different to mine? And again, that's a big hook of what I love about dropping to your channel and seeing what you got to do, because yours is really kind of fresh. Yours is.
Yeah.
I have to be careful because of the terminology, because I know they come out at different times around the world. But yours is a first look video, albeit it might be, I know, 3 days behind someone else. But for me, it's a first look, or it's a first experience video. But then I can go back over to someone like Chris that sort of sat and pondered and thought about it, and I want, so even though there's two guys doing a video on the same figure, I was going to say the same thing or the same product, I'm getting two totally different experiences of it. And that's what I love. And that's what's great about sort of YouTube and what there's different guys doing. You're just getting a different experience of the same it's the same thing, but a different way of looking at it. And if I watch a few of those, I get this sort of broader scope of what the community are thinking about this particular character, and is that close to what I'm thinking or feeling, or is it different or not? And I love being able to gauge the community's take, but by looking at the different videos.
And that's where, like, for me, it's like when guys want to start doing YouTube and start doing reviews, I tell them, I'm like, you have to have your own take on it. You can take cues from other people. If you like the way that I do them as first reaction, awesome, do that. But just make sure you have your own style, your own flow to it. If you like the way someone else does it, where they have them perfectly posed, and they, if you don't want to go over issues that you may see, you just want to show the figure pose, different things like that, then you can do it that way. Everyone's going to be different, but find your own way. It's okay to take ideas from other people that you enjoy. What you don't want is to see the exact same video. No one wants to see you doing the exact same video as someone else. No one wants to see you talking to the camera, showing the figure the same way that I do, and then stopping it, and then showing the hands in it, and then at the end finishing in the same way that I do. And then when I put the turntable in for the third part right before, like, if you added that after you saw I was doing it, people would be like, yeah, you're just copying someone else. There was a guy, I don't even know his name, and it wasn't bad. I sent it over to my moderator. I just came across it. I'm like, I sent it to him on Instagram. I'm like, hey, check this out. I'm like, what does it look like? And he just came right back and said, Dan Larson? I was like, yes. So I don't remember who this guy was. He sat in a chair the same way as Dan Larson from what's Dan Larson's channel? You know what I'm talking about, Dan Larson?
Yeah.
He's
Galaxy.
changed
Galaxy,
Toy Galaxy. But then he changed it from Toy Galaxy to Secret Galaxy. But this guy, he sat in like same style chair. He talked the exact same way. His cadence was the exact same. And I'm like, he's literally just copying everything. And I love Dan Larson. I think what he does, I think he's hilarious. So I'm like, he sounds exactly the same. He's doing everything the exact same way. Like, it's one thing to,
because you're not going to develop your parents. So, like, I think it's safe to say that if we all look back at our first couple of videos, cringe.
Right, I'd look back at those, but I'd leave them up there so everyone can see we all start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. You got to start somewhere, but it's over the time. Then you develop your style or your personality or the way you like to do things. I don't want to kind of sound like I'm talking myself up here. I'm just an L guy looking at an action figure, but you sort of you develop your own process. What's my way I want to do it, and what's my workflow, or what's my way I want to do a take. And I think that's why I start from the very start. I start doing at the end saying a playability factor. And now that was 50-50 because now it was out at the time. Anyone I was watching wasn't really giving it a rating, but at the same time, it was kind of like a little bit of a troll that if someone comes at me for not liking my playability factor, arguably playability factor isn't a real thing. It's not something you can touch. So it's going to be subjective. So I put it in saying, okay, who's going to come after me? In fairness, nobody ever really did, saying your playability factor is wrong. It can't be. So,
and I know for me, like, that's been one of the biggest things. I'm giving you my honest opinion. It may not be your opinion, and it may not be your experience. Your experience may be better, or may be worse. But this is what my experience is, and I think for the most part, at least people that have watched for a long enough time, they realize, like, I'm not giving them any BS when I do a review. Now you may disagree, and that's fine. We can disagree because as I'm, I'll go back to like the Haslam Sky Striker. I didn't have any issues with it, but I'm also not stupid enough to not look around and say, Yeah, there were some QC issues. I have no issues with the landing gear staying up or staying down the way that it's supposed to. I really didn't have any issues with the bubbles. A matter of fact, all those people that had the figures literally just falling off the bubbles where they just, I'm like, I wish my figures would have come like that. Then I wouldn't have had to rip the cards when I got the figures out. I wish mine would have just slid right off. But it goes to a lot of that. And it's like, I'm not, I've had Valor First figures that have broken. I've had other ones that haven't. I'm smart enough to know, like, yeah, I've seen online, but this is the experience that I'm having. Or I'd have people yell at me when I did a video where the Valorverse broke. I'm doing it live. You're watching me. And they're telling me how I'm wrong for how I did this and how I did that. And it's like, you watched what I did. I'm not saying that all these figures are bad. Or I wouldn't be buying them with my own money. No one's sending me free stuff. It's coming out of my pocket.
Yeah.
If I thought Valorverse was like this horrible product, why would I be spending $32 on a figure so I could review it and trash it? How does that benefit me?
Yeah.
But I think as long as you're honest, they're going to come back. And when you have that different take on things, everyone wants your take. That's why you create your own style. So people may tune in just to hear your voice and be like, I like the accent. I like the way that,
Yeah.
I know people don't tune in for that for me. That's not my voice.
People say, how come you're not on camera when you're doing it? My easy answer is this face was made for radio. So
not a lot of people like to be on camera. And like Beast Battleground, perfect example. He does hands in the camera. And I thought he didn't really want to be on camera. And then I saw him on a toy kind of mood. And then and him and I talk all the time. And I was like, so you don't have a problem being on camera? I said, no. I just do my quick videos. And I really realized that like he just does them just because he just enjoys doing it really quick. When someone had attacked him, about how he did his review, and he posted on Instagram, like in his story, where he was like, and he remembered, he knows exactly how he worded it, but it was something like, tell me how my non-edited, no effort review hurt you. And he had like the quote of like whatever the guy bitched about. He's like, tell me that. I'm like, that is so awesome.
So I only came across him recently because he popped into a live stream that I was in the chat as well, and so I've started watching these Battlegrounds videos, but then I came across his Instagram, which is awesome. So I've only, again, I don't know how long he's doing it, probably a good while, but I've only come across him, brand new channel, completely different take on it from other guys I was watching. So I've started watching his channel and enjoying his videos, but his Instagram is awesome.
Oh, he does really nice photography. There's a few other guys, Action Figs, if you're not following him. My moderator, I can't pronounce his Instagram, but he does wonderful photography. Him, Ed, that's Action Figs. They do wonderful photography. I mean, there's so much good photography out there with people that don't want to have anything to do with YouTube.
Yeah.
Or they might go on live streams, but they don't really want to do YouTube. They're just enjoying their photography. Leanne. Is it Leanne?
Oh, Leanne Hobbs, is it?
Yes. I'm working really hard to get her on this. And she didn't do herself any favors, and she even said it to me when I made a comment, and she was like, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I'm really thinking about saying yes, but she just has her like concerns and she's a little shy. And I'm like, listen, I'm not saying that you do wonderful photography for a woman in our field. You do wonderful photography.
Oh, hands down.
I'm like, you have some of the best photography, but as a woman in this community, there's a story there. Like,
for sure,
a lot of women get into, I'm not even saying collecting, but the action figures that you're collecting, like there's a story there and people want to know. But then people also want to know, like how did you get into the photography and how did you learn to do it so well? Because everything that she's doing. And then
So
she does that.
and shot.
She does her she did that story of Pandora killing, I think, CoverGirl, and then like it was like 8 panels, I think, of this wonderful photography, and I'm like, you have this story here, but I understand like not everyone wants to be on camera; they're shy.
No, for sure. But her, again, another really cool Instagram account, and she's doing it a long time. So she was shooting GI Joes or posting GI Joes like for going back, I think nearly 2 years or 2.5 years. So she was in the game early doors with them, and again, yeah, definitely another Instagram account worth checking out. So
Yeah.
if she did come on and chat with you, that would be so cool. I'd love to.
And again, she'll probably end up watching this. And what I told her was, I said, hey, here's what we can do, because everyone wants to know who you are. I said, we can do a recording one like you and I are doing right now. I'll let you watch it. If you say, hey, you know what, I don't feel comfortable, no one ever sees it. I'm like, I'm not going to be an ambush guy.
Yeah,
we can record it. If you watch it back and you're like, you know what, I don't feel comfortable, it gets shit canned. No one ever sees it, and I just grab another guest to do for the Thursday, because obviously it will be a little further out, so I'll have time, to get someone else on. But I was like, listen, I'll make it work for you. And I'm like, the only reason why I'm continuing to kind of badger you is because you mentioned on Facebook. Like, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm really thinking about, because I had already asked her, and she's like, I'm really thinking about it again. And I'm like, now I'm going to continue to ask. Not like every day, but
not to put anyone under pressure or anything, but if Leanne was to come on and chat to you, I would certainly tune in and enjoy that episode for sure.
Yeah, and again, and again, she has her concerns, and I understand.
That's allowed. That's understandable.
But again, there's a lot of guys that feel the same way. That they. And my whole thing, and this is the only thing that I say about this, is your face has to be on here. I cannot speak to an avatar for 2 hours. I'm sorry, I can't do it. And if your thing is, hey, you know what, I don't feel comfortable showing my face, I'm in a profession, that's cool. Like, it's no hard feelings. Like, I'm not going to be mad. Like, you know what? Well, how can you not come on and do this? People know who you are in the community. Listen, if you don't feel comfortable, if you just don't want your face out there, like, no one knows who Fred Broca is. If you follow him on Instagram or anything, no one knows him. I know who he is. I've talked to him, but he does not show his face. He doesn't have his real name, so you're not going to find him on Facebook unless if he adds you, or you've met him. So
but that's okay. Like, I mean, we do
live
where those lines are blurred between public and private, and there are some people out there that don't like the crossover. So, but anyone that wants to keep themselves private, I certainly would respect that and understand that.
And I will say this: I'm not going to compare myself to a movie star because I'm not. But it is, you are getting known. So yesterday on the members only stream, one of the newer members, Aaron, Toy Enhancer. Now, I just happened to come across one of his videos, and he's new to YouTube, and I made a comment and said, hey, you know what? Good job with the video. Keep it up. Whatever. And then like a couple weeks later, he makes a comment on the video on one of my videos, and he's like, hey, I've been watching you since you made that comment on my video. I started following you after that. So he pretty much clicked it, and this guy has a channel. So the other day, I don't know, I can see when someone buys merchandise, but I don't know who it is. So he goes on the live stream last night, and I see this. He's sitting there, the way he's like standing. You guys can't see it because you have to be a channel member. And he has this mug. Cool. And he's like showing it, I'm like, oh, you bought that. And then he stands up and he's wearing that logo on the sweatshirt.
Awesome.
So he was the one that bought it. He goes, I got a funny story about this. He's in Georgia. Now, mind you, I'm up here in Michigan. We're pretty far away. He's like, I go into Ollie's. And he goes, I hardly ever go into Ollie's. I just got the sweatshirt. I'm wearing it. I see this like 17-year-old kid looking at all the Marvel Legends that are discounted. And he goes, I kind of walked over there and I'm looking at it and everything. And then I kind of start talking to him because he's like, it's odd to see a younger kid that is looking at toys. And this kid was collecting. And he said, we talked a little bit. And then he looks at me and goes, nice merchandise. The nice merch you're wearing. And he goes, oh, you know who this is? He goes, dude, I watch him all the time.
That's so like, cool. Oh, wow.
And he's like, not to like float your eat. I'm like, it's weird because I've been noticed at my local toy store here by some guy. I like when John, the owner, was like, hey, you should follow him. He's on YouTube too. And the guy goes, yeah, I know who he is. And I thought he was just kind of being kind. And he goes, yeah, you're a punk with toys. And I went, yeah, like, but he was cool. Like, again, like I don't want anyone to ever, like, if they see me to ever act like I'm no one special. I'm willing to put my face out here the same way that you are, and so many others. But it is weird because you start to get noticed, and a lot of people don't want that. They like to interact in the community, but they don't want anyone to know who they are because that's and there's nothing wrong with being private.
Well, everyone's different. Everyone has their own way. I still think it's amazing that a 17-year-old is watching your videos because that would just fall outside sort of back and forth for what us old farts are doing. That's awesome.
It shocked me for sure. And he's like, I just gotten it and I put it on, and he's like, I don't even go to Ollie's that much, but I felt really good. I'm like, I'm going to be telling that on Monday, just so you know. I'm telling that story because it's just cool to know like someone else. And obviously, I mean, I just went over 3,000 subscribers.
Oh,
so obviously, again, a lot of times there's just people clicking, but I can see the views and everything. People from all over the world, and especially the US, are watching. But just to know like two people that like watch my content just happen to bump into each other, it is cool, and it's like, all right, you know what? Whatever I'm doing is reaching out. Obviously, I'm talking to guys from Australia and Ireland, and it's awesome. You're meeting all these new people. Thank God so many of you guys speak English. So to get back on track here, we'll get back to the YouTube stuff. You sold everything off, or you didn't. You just got rid of everything. How long were you out of collecting?
So that was me finished collecting.
Yeah.
So I would argue.
But you still collect stuff, right?
I'm going to have an argument. I'll argue with you. So that was me finished with collecting. Okay. That was me finished buying something that I wanted to display, which is what a collection is. Right? Then I dibble and dabble. I'd come across something. I think, oh, that's cool, and I pick it up. But then I was in the Disney store in Ireland here. I'm going to say 2013, or was it 2014? I was at something, and I remember coming in because my kids were with me. They were small, and I picked up a Stormtrooper in this black box with a sort of blue design. I think it had a blue design, did it, or an orange design? But it was a 6-inch Stormtrooper. And it looked really detailed and really cool. I was like, I'm buying this. So up I went to the counter. They got their little Disney princess dresses or whatever they were buying. And this, please. And I bought, unknowns to myself, my first Black Series figure. Came home, ripped it open, start messing around with it, posing it and playing with it, and put it up on my desk. And I thought, oh, that's cool. That's imagine a 6-inch Star Wars figure. I was blown away. So that was fine. That was that one. And then I'd go to, say, there's another shop, Forbidden Planet, that we have here in Dublin, or back to the Disney store, and I saw a Boba Fett 6-inch. I was like, oh, wow. So I picked that up. So I slowly then start picking up Black Series figures. Now, at the time, it was just figures that didn't have faces because I thought the faces looked awful on some of the human characters. So I went with a helmet. So I got a Darth Vader or a Boba Fett or a Stormtrooper, again, the bad guys, And that I was slowly starting to pick up Black Series figures. But what I was trying to do with them was take photographs with them and mess about with them. So that was fine. It was a slow burn. That sort of exploded then. I know sort of The Force Awakens came out. There wasn't really much, and I didn't want any of those figures, or I wasn't big into the prequel figures. I didn't want clones or battle droids. And but I just started picking up more and more as the line went on. And then they start really going heavy into the original trilogy. And I was just all in, and I just wanted to get all these 6-inch Star Wars characters. And the idea, my excuse was, I just want to take cool photographs with them.
My excuse, I like that.
My excuse. So I wasn't collecting them. I was buying them with the intention to take them out of the box and mess with them or play with them. So that's why I say now, I don't collect them. I don't know whether I'm justifying it through photography. I think part of the reason starting the whole YouTube thing was to justify why this adult man is buying toys. But I just mess with them. So because I unboxed them and I was sitting on my desk today working away and just twiddling around with him. Like, I'm constantly posing
them. Collecting them.
Okay, yes.
You're just not completing them, and you're collecting it. There's different ways to collect, I believe.
But I'm now just playing with my toys. Just so
you know what? I understand what you're saying, but do you get rid of them? Do you turn around and get rid of them?
I didn't say I didn't hoard. I said I didn't.
Hoarding is a form of collecting.
So
it's just a nasty way.
Yeah, funny. So the thing is, then what happens is that no, I don't think I don't think I've sold any G.I. Joe, Star Wars Black Series, Valaverse. I've never resold anything. So
wait. Black Series, classified, Valaverse. Is there anything else?
The occasional McFarlane figure. Then
how many McFarlane figures do you think you have?
About 6. So
you realize you're collecting here, right? You're you're collecting figures. No, it looks like you're looking down at a box full of your figures.
Yeah, but and you know what's great? It's a mixed box, just like the old days. No, I was looking to see what else. So this guy was blown away with this one. These are so much fun.
Well, if what I read, my Chun-Li should be shipping out today. Today. Because Hella Dope Toys, who I pre-ordered from, they finally got them in, and he didn't tell me that it was shipping out. I should have asked him if they shipped mine out. Yeah, those figures are so good.
Well, when you get your Chun-Li, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have fun with it, because my daughter stole mine and it's sitting down on her desk because she's in Fortnite. So you have fun with your Chun-Li. We don't have one anymore. So,
what was funny about the Chun-Li was, dude, you're not gonna believe this. Literally, Hella Dope Toys just sent me an email. Literally, just buzzed that my order has processed, is on its way.
Oh, nice.
Literally while we were just talking about this. Well, what happened was I had bought this.
So when are you going to win the lottery?
I gotta play those tickets. And if I win a big enough one, I will do the biggest toy show, and I will fly all the people in here that I actually enjoy talking to. What's funny about that was it was one of those. I'm doing a live stream, and I have no connection to Fei Long at all. I didn't even have a real connect. I didn't play Street Fighter. All my friends play Street Fighter. I didn't play video games. But I mean, I knew it enough. It actually drove me nuts because I wanted to go skateboard and they wanted to play this. I wanted to go bust myself up. They wanted to play with, stupid video games. But I had bought this and I'm just like, this is so much better than these figures are better than they deserve to be. I know that sounds awful, but it's like the articulation, the size point of them, they don't have to be perfectly aesthetically made because the video game isn't. And I have no connection to Fei Long, but I'm on the live stream and I was talking about Chun-Li. I get a super chat for Chun-Li, and then everyone starts sending me money till there was more than enough to get Chun-Li. Now, after YouTube takes their cut, I still had to pay money to get it. But either way, that was the first time that someone started sending me super chats so I could get a Chun-Li to review. And unfortunately, Helidope Toys kind of got theirs like super late. I think that's how Jada does it. Jada is not, they're a bigger company. They're shipping out to Target first and everything. So, but all the local stores got it. They were supposed to get it a while ago. But it's just funny that we're talking about it. And literally, as I'm like, yeah, I saw him that he was shipping it, and I just happened to look at my watch. I'm like, Helidope Toys order. I'm like, really? What is the chances of that? So that's I love that. Like, I love those coincidences like that. Of course, it won't make any sense.
Happen, Lawrence.
Yeah, it's not going to make any sense on Thanksgiving 2 weeks from now.
No.
When people are going to be like, what are you talking about? You reviewed that figure already. All right. So I kind of skipped over this, but I like to find out. So you're married and you have how many children? Do you mind me asking?
So 3 kids, of an older stepdaughter and then 2 of my own with my wife.
All girls?
All girls. Even the dog is a female.
Listen, I'm telling you right now, like dealing with my 17-year-old son and my 14-year-old daughter. So far, I'd much rather deal with my daughter. I mean it. Like, I love my son. I mean, I love my kids. But yeah, there can be some combatantness, we can just say. How are they? Because it sounds like it sounds like your 2 children. I would assume the stepdaughter is older than them, or else it's really
So Chloe's, Chloe's got her own profession now. She's living out on her own. She's living her own life.
How old is your stepdaughter?
She's 31.
Oh, wow, she's older than mine.
My wife is older than me by a few years. So she's like she left there a few years ago to go and be an adult. That's why I keep telling the other 2. I said she's my favorite because she doesn't live here anymore.
How old are yours?
So my eldest, she's turning 17 next week, and my youngest then is 14. So
yeah, like you said before we went on, like they're the same ages. So yeah, I know exactly. Yep, I know. I'm assuming that again, you're across the pond. Culturally, there are some differences, but what do they say? Same, diff. Like same. Like it's all the same. Like they know more than us.
Hormones are hormones.
They know everything.
Yeah.
So when you're collecting, how does your significant other? How does she accept it? Now it sounds like when she met you, you were collecting pretty heavily.
Yeah, so it kind of doesn't bother her. Like, it didn't bother when we met, and then it was a quirky little side thing, but it was.
That's because you were her boss.
Well, no. No, we did know each other for a little while before we got together, so she knew that this was.
She already knew you were a geek.
A quirky little thing of mine, and then I think she was delighted when I got rid of everything, because it was like, oh, we got this whole brand new room back. Then,
just kidding.
I suppose as it stepped, so like I said, I dipped back into the Black series. That was like, there wasn't a lot coming out. When you think about Black series over the years, like there would, for me, there wasn't a lot of figures that I wanted over the span of a lot of years, because my interest was original trilogy, really. But then things like, then when the Valaverse was announced, so when we were talking about Star Wars earlier, you were saying at playtime you found it restrictive because you had to stick within the narrative of what you knew as the films. So as I then said, when I start getting the Black Series figures, I wanted just to take cool photographs, not because I think I'm any good. I just wanted to mess with the editing. It's that playing around with the thing is my enjoyment. It's not that it's never the final product or final piece. It's the process of, like, I mean, you know yourself, trying to stand a figure sometimes is just on the verge of making you lose your mind, because you think you just have it and he flips over. And so it's all about posing them and trying to get the right angle and then mess around with the editing. But when you're doing it with Star Wars figures, you're really stuck within a tight narrative. You can't so up until Kenobi came out last year, I couldn't do a photograph of Kenobi striking a stormtrooper with a lightsaber, or I would have been dragged through the comment section for doing it. So
that's strange. It seems so strange, but
it was just so limiting. And then, but from trying to take a photograph perspective, when the first G.I. Joes came out, I had no interest. I did look at them. I didn't like the it just didn't appeal to me. And until I got Snake Eyes. When Snake Eyes came out, I picked him up because he was Snake Eyes. That just exploded it all out, open for me. But that's when the Valaverse figures were announced. And I remember my wife saying to me, what would you like for Christmas? And I said, so a UK retailer had said they were getting them in. And I said, look, I wouldn't mind getting a few of these. So she goes, all right, I'll order them for you. And she ordered me a couple of the Valaverse figures.
What do you want for Christmas? I want these toys. Like, how fucking old are you again?
And the way I justified it was, so and people often say, like, what makes you want to get like these action figures? Because you don't have any childhood connection with them. But these were just military style figures that were coming out with no. I know there was a backstory. I'm not trying to trying to talk that down. There was a lot.
I understand exactly what you're saying.
But to me, it was a blank slate. It was a blank canvas, and they were just cool looking figures that I could just mess it out and take a few photographs with. That I didn't have those restrictions. Then G.I. Joe stepped up a gear and really start bringing out some really cool figures and characters, and going back more so to the vintage style of the character, but a modern update. So, and that's what I like what they do. They meet that balance in the middle.
I agree.
They're not just giving us full, straight up vintage redos, and they're not just giving us, they tried to give a modern look. It didn't work out, but in fairness, they listened to the audience and they changed. And I think
I want to say, like, before you go on, so keep that thought. That's what I said. Like, I know a lot of people, they tried something because people are like, they need to do something different. I'm like, they tried and nobody wanted it. So they listened to what people said they wanted. And now people are upset. Not everyone, but a lot of people are upset. Like, you should have done something completely new. Well, they tried that. And everyone said, no, we don't want that. me included. Like I didn't want laser weapons. I didn't mind the characters. Like, I was fine with that. Like you were doing an update. I didn't want the laser guns. That bothered me. But they listened to what the fans said they want, and that's what they're giving us. So
yeah, I believe so, and I'm really happy with the line, and that's where that stepped up. So that's how I kind of rolled back into collecting. So you asked the question, what does she
wait,
think?
you rolled into what? What was that?
That's how I rolled back into buying modern action figures. So yeah, you asked me what does my other half think. She was complicit in it. She helped me get those Valaverse figures from the UK. But then, yeah, she'll probably tell you that there's too many now knocking around. But again, I said to her last Sunday, I want to go out and do a video on the beach with one of the figures. And I said, do you want to come out with the dog? And like she was like, yeah, okay. So there was that. So I'd say she supports it in her own way.
It's funny you say that. So this has nothing to do with collecting, but this page came across it, so I went and followed it on my personal Instagram, and it's called Skate Wives, like skateboarding wives, and it's just one lady, and she's like, "Oh, great." He called me that he was like, it shows her driving, and she's like, "Great." He called me and said, "I can pick him up from the skate park." How many tries do you think he's going to say that he needs? And then she's sitting there. She's like, all right, just one more try. Yep. Or she'll be like, we went to the beach. Yeah, he lasted on the beach 15 minutes before he went to the skate park, which was right behind me. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, can you come here? Yeah. Can you film me? And he'll be like, oh, yeah, now I'm filming him. And then she goes into like, watch this. Oh, yeah, that was an awesome. And she named the trick, but said it wrong. And he's like, that's not the name of it. And she's like, this is what you did. And she's like, no one calls it that. It's this. But that's just... So, like, just what you said, you were like, hey, do you want to come out with me? She probably walked out there with the dog and was 5 minutes into it and said,
I wanted to get out because I got this guy. And again, like sort of getting the Action Force, this was a character I had no connection to or anything to do with as a kid. It was brand new to me. So I was having fun with him. I just wanted to get him out to the beach where there's a few rocks and sort of take photographs with him.
See, you have that beautiful beach to do like photography. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I really wanted to, there's a creek and everything, but I see a lot of your stuff where you're by that beach. And I look at two aspects. I'm like, that's awesome. You're doing photography like that. But just that you're on this beach, although sometimes it looks too cold to go in the water. So, I mean, it's beautiful, but I'm not going in the water. Not like when I was in Florida and you went in and you're like, this is like bath water. But so does your wife collect anything, or is she just...
No. So, no. Does she think I'm slightly mental and nuts? Possibly, yeah. Because it's different. She was a fishing widow for a long time. Where I'd go off fishing and do nighttime fishing. So I think the fact that kind of hobby that had to die down, I suppose. As the kids were getting older, there was more demands for my time, so I was happy enough to sort of put that aside for a while. So this is a hobby that keeps me in the house.
Well, like you said, like what you kind of mentioned, you said like, I think she kind of enjoys me getting out and taking photography because, I mean, I think one of my biggest downfalls with my ex is that we spent like every waking moment together when we weren't at work. And she may have worked from home, but she worked for my company. So there wasn't even me coming home and like telling her like things that happened. She already knew, which like, all right, well, but she doesn't collect anything. So she never had this like, hey, just go out. Like she knew I love skateboard. She didn't understand it. And I had stopped skateboarding. I never quit, but I had stopped and just, you know what? I really got into it again. And then she got pregnant with our son and it was one of those things that kind of just fell off because I was just one of those people. I didn't think that it was right for me to be going out after work, skateboarding all the time while she's at home with her daughter, who I'm raising with her. And she's pregnant with our son. That was kind of my fault too. And then, our daughter came along and just one thing led to another. 10 years ago that I don't skate until we split up. And I kind of look back at it, and because she has no hobbies, I think our relationship would have been better had she been like, one day a week, you get the hell out of this house and go ride that skateboard and then come back. Just go somewhere. But she would say that she didn't want to, but we did everything together. Oh, do you want to go grocery shopping with me? Not really. Fine, I'll go by myself. Well, that was the plan, right? Like, that's why when you asked me if I wanted to go, oh, we should just go to Target when you get home. I've been driving all day. It's only 4 miles away. I know, but fine, we'll go. Like, you go by yourself. Like, you didn't need me to be here. You could go get this stuff. But I usually find like people, like if a significant other collects, they seem to understand the bug a little bit better than someone who doesn't have hobbies.
Well, me and my wife there's an expression here in Ireland called chalk and cheese. I don't know if you use it in the States where no, so we're like completely different. So one tastes like delicious cheese and one tastes like dry chalk. So, but we're completely different. And I think that works then in our relation. We were married 20 years there in the summer. So, because we would do a lot of things together, spend a lot of time together, but then our interests are so diverged away from one another that, I suppose we have our own hobbies or interests and we need our own time and space to do them. So maybe there's something in that, as you were saying. Maybe there is something in the fact that we're so different, our interests are different.
Yeah, but it sounds like she really understands. And I've always told people, I'm like, when if I'm in a relationship, you don't have to understand why I need to skateboard or why I collect. They just need to understand that it's something I enjoy and brings happiness to me. Just like if they do something, I may not understand it.
I don't have to understand it.
It's making you happy. Awesome. You love sewing? Go ahead, man. Like, you love poetry? You like read, or whatever it is. Soccer. But I'm sorry, I meant European football. No, I was just wondering how that goes. But it sounds like you guys have a good understanding of a good balance where you have your toys and
yeah, and like I said, it's sort of it turned into. So I had an Instagram account years ago called, I think it was called Action Figure Art or something like that. I think there's still a few pictures up, but I lost access to the password to it years ago, and it was just I can't remember the account name. But anyway, I left it go for years, and I wanted to start. I was putting up kind of pictures on my own Instagram story, my personal one, and they'd go through onto Facebook or something. It was like, I wanted it separate, so I started an Instagram account, and that's where it started from, just to throw up stuff that I was sort of messing about with the figures. And then someone was like, "Oh yeah, how did I suppose?" I was watching other channels. So there's a live stream on in the UK every Friday night, and there's 3 different channels do it, 3 guys, and they're more into these guys are more into the vintage side of things, but they've just great personalities. They're 3 completely different individuals, but the chemistry just works. And it was during lockdown, so I started watching this live stream with I think it's ZSR it's now, so it's Zero Hunter Toys, Mark Shabby Geek, and Roland's Reviews, and they were just 3 funny guys just sitting there, and it's just talking about toys, talking about old stuff, talking about chips and gravy, which is you guys call them fries, we call them chips, and every guest they have on has to be asked, do you eat chips with gravy or dry? So,
what do you like? What kind of gravy?
Oh, brown gravy. I know.
No, we won't do that. What about fries and ketchup?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. I just want to make sure you guys have ketchup there.
Well, wait till you have fries with curry sauce. It'll blow your mind. I got Paddy with these guys, talking to them and everything else, and then Matt, who's Zero Hunter Toys, he was really encouraging. He was like, "Look, you're taking photographs. Why don't you do a YouTube videos?" And I was like, not, you know. But no, Matt really encouraged me and helped me out, and he was like, gave me a bit of advice, and that's really how I started doing it. Of kind of the encouragement from someone else that had a YouTube channel, and the support of the guys then that they all had channels, and that's kind of how I fell into it. So it kind of evolved from an Instagram account to a YouTube channel to then using it as a platform to meet then the likes of someone like you, that is what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You know, live on the other side of the world, but grew up the same as me or has similar interests and is into the same things. And it allowed me that sort of, you know, platform to go and meet like-minded people and have fun. And I always said I was only going to do it if I was having the crack, and getting to sit down and chat with you now is enjoyable, reminiscing and having a laugh. That's what it's about for me. That's what it turned into. I'm happy where it's at. It's perfect. That's what I wanted. And I think my wife then sees me having fun, so she knows I'm enjoying it. So she's okay with it.
Okay, so let's discuss a couple things. So you kind of just told me where you want to see your YouTube channel go. You're okay with your YouTube channel doing what you're doing. Now you said you don't like doing live streams, correct?
No, because I'm kind of shy, I suppose, a little bit. You know, I've done some before, so I'm used to doing it. But when I have not sat down to a StreamYard link yet and not had to breathe heavy and get myself together. I'm always worried I'll talk too much. I'm always worried I'll not talk enough. And yeah, I kind of get myself in a bit of a tizzy about them, where when you're hiding behind the camera, it's a bit of a safer space.
And I understand that, because again, Monday nights, I mean, it's kind of become the running joke now about, do I have 3 hours that I can fill? There are days that I start doing that and I don't feel like I can talk.
Yeah.
There are other days that I walk in, I'm like, boom, I'm good, I'm ready to go. And in all honesty, I get to that last hour, that last half hour, and again, now it's going like 3.5 hours. I mean, it's going way longer. The whole point of getting done by midnight was to get to bed so I can wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm wired up anyway, so I don't go to bed till like 2 o'clock. I'm getting maybe 4 hours of sleep most nights as it is. Probably why I'm sick. It's probably partially. But yeah, I understand like the whole, am I going to talk too much? And when you're like me, where you talk an awful lot, when you go on other streams, you really have to be cautious of that. I watch a lot of people that they talk a lot and they don't understand. You're on a panel with 6 or 7, maybe 10 people. You have to let other people talk.
Yeah.
But I also watch people that just sit there and they don't say anything, and they're kind of just taking up a spot because they don't know when to interrupt so they can speak their voice, because it may have nothing to do with the topic that someone was talking about. So I understand what you're saying about, you're worried about maybe talking too much or not talking enough. I like this format because if it goes an hour or it goes 3 hours, as long as, for me, I'm getting stuff out of the guest to tell their story, that's what works for me. But I gotta ask you this, because unless if things have changed, I already know the answer to this. Have you decided to monetize your channel?
I've decided to not monetize the channel. So,
Do you mind me asking why?
No, I don't mind you asking whatsoever. Do I have the ability to explain it? I'm not sure. I don't know. Is the honest answer. It's like, I mean, by the way, there's nothing wrong with anyone monetizing YouTube or throwing up ads on videos, whether people are monetized or not. So if some of that feeds through to the guys making the content, that's amazing. That's brilliant. So no, it's Jesus. So this is not a channel monetization thing. This is a personal thing for me on my channel. And
but I already know the answer to it. To me, this is telling people more who you are. You know what I mean? That's why I ask.
All right. No, yeah, I don't know. I just like I don't know if I can explain it. I just decided that. So I just wanted to be like, again, this is not aimed at anyone else or what anyone else is doing ever. This is purely an inward look. But for me, I'm just enjoying what I'm doing, the way I'm doing it, and I'm happy where it's at. And if I was to monetize it and then it's nearly I'm giving into the pressure of YouTube to monetize and keep pushing out content and become part of the machine. And that if there's any sort of pressure or demands or expectations, I'll just step back and say, no, do you know what? Go your own way, and you know that's going to take the fun away. For me, it's just a little small thing I do when I have some free time. I like doing it. I like editing them. I tried to put some photographs in my videos, and that's really where my interest is photographing them. And sometimes they really come out well, and when you show them the video, it looks well. And when that works, when that pops, when that happens, I'm thrilled. So I'll put that video out, and I'm delighted with it. I'm so happy that it just worked the way there was a concept in my mind. If I'm able to get that into video format and it works, I'm happy. If 5 people watch it, so be it. Then that's what I like doing. I like when it works out. And going from concept to idea to development to finalizing the video. And if, like I said, I'm doing it because I'm trying to achieve something with it. And if that works out, I'm just happy with the end result. And that's where it's at for me. So I decided that, I won't go ahead with the monetizing thing, even though they keep emailing me.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, I've got a few now, and it's like, so straight away, I felt a bit of pressure. I felt a bit of, they're kind of knocking on my door looking for an answer. So I was like, I'll just back off in that case. And I just said, I wouldn't do it. But again, and I'm purely talking about me, my channel, my perspective. I'm nothing to do with anyone else whatsoever.
No, and I didn't. And again, if I would have thought that was, if I would have thought that was it, I probably wouldn't even have you on there because, it's just like for me to tell you you're wrong would be wrong. My dad used to be a runner, and he used to have he used to do this newsletter. So he would do all this stuff. So he was the president of this running club. He did everything on his own, never got paid for it. And I used to tell him, hey, Dad, you need to get paid for this. You're doing this. You're spending time. And he was just always like, you know what? Once you start getting paid for it, it takes all the fun out of it. Now, I don't fully agree with that, but that's just my point of view. So I understand exactly what you're saying, where it's like, hey, that's not what I set out to do. And I didn't either. I think I've made it clear that I monetized. And to me, it's like, hey, if I can make a little bit of extra money to pay my figures off, great. But again, I'm also not looking to make this a full-time job. Not saying it could never happen, but it's not something that I'm going, hey, I'm going to make this full-time. But I watched my dad do that, and that's how he always looked at it. And to him, that's what always kept it fun for him till he finally, he did it even after he stopped running. He was still doing this running club. And then he finally, gave everything up. And I never understood, but I was also much younger, not understanding. As I get older, I see it. A lot of times when you start being charged, and when you start making money, you feel the pressure to continue to do different things, to expand what you're doing. How do I make the content bigger? Even now I feel that, like I look, and I know not everyone understands it, but I look at my live streams, and we just talked about this. I'm averaging about 60 people throughout the live stream, like an average of 60. And I want to hit 70. And my thing is like, okay, I've hit 60, like average. Well, now I want to shoot for 70. And when I hit 70 and I'm averaging that, I'm going to shoot for 80 and vice versa. I just like growing. I have this obsession with numbers. And it doesn't mean like just growing things. I love to look at numbers and watch them change.
Yeah.
It didn't matter when.
That's cool to set personal goals and objectives and reach them.
Well, what I mean by numbers is even when like the pandemic started, there were all those cases, and I would watch the numbers just grow just because I had this fascination with watching numbers either grow or go down. Like I just have, it doesn't matter what it is. It is a weird fascination.
Do you know, someone was only talking to me the other day, and I never thought about this. I haven't thought about it since the pandemic, but someone was talking to me the other day, and he just turned around and he goes, do you think looking at those numbers on the news every night is going to have an effect on our kids? And I was like, oh, man, I don't know. Like, our kids had to look at those numbers because we were at the start, we didn't know what was going on. We were all doing, like we were talking about earlier, freedom and having the BMX and Gen X kids scooting off in the morning and spending all day in a wild adventure. That was a shitty thing for those kids to go. And as it happens, I suppose it just went away, which is great, and hopefully everyone can get on with their lives. But what an awful thing for that generation to have to grow up in comparison to what we were talking about earlier.
That year was my stepdaughter's senior year in college, my son's last year in 8th grade, and my daughter's last year in 5th grade. They didn't go to school the next year. They did everything from home.
Yeah.
So they went to a Montessori school, so they weren't in a school district through 5th grade. Then they went into a school district. So there weren't, like, all the kids weren't going there. So my daughter misses her whole entire 6th grade year. She starts 7th grade. There's very, very few kids that she knew there. And my daughter's a social butterfly. So you won't have a problem. My son, he goes into 9th grade, doesn't go to school because there's everything from home. There's 2 or 3 schools that go to the high school. So now when he gets in there, he's already an introvert. Now that you're adding all kinds of kids. Now I believe they've both understood it, but it's like, here's your last year in 8th grade, you don't get to go. 5th grade, you don't get to go. And more than anything, even though it wouldn't bother me as a person, my daughter didn't get to graduate college. Like, she graduated college, but she didn't get to walk the stage or anything like that.
No ceremony.
Which to me, I don't care. I don't have sentimental things. I graduated high school. I did a backflip on stage. It was the only exciting thing for 3+ hours. It was the only exciting thing. And I got to find the video and somehow get it transferred over to digital so I can actually post it. But it was like 3 hours of boringness, when my daughter graduated high school and we watched it. I just remember this is 3 hours of boringness. I'm never gonna get back.
Yeah.
But you know, it is definitely one of those. The kids missed out on a lot of things. Though conversely, I say this, I miss it because my kids and I had such a good relationship. We did stuff we normally wouldn't do just together. You'd go out to the park, go out to the beach, walk around because you really couldn't do anything. I would go skateboarding. Now I was lucky enough because one of my good friends, he skated for the skate park, and when they were supposed to be closed, well, I knew the owner and he'd let us come skate. So it'd only be a couple of us, you know.
Cool.
And
So
I would post like videos on Instagram.
break.
People would be like, "Modern Skate's open." I'm like, kind of. I mean, I'm allowed in here, but I can't say you are. So for me, I mean, I actually enjoyed it. It's a weird feeling, like to say you enjoyed it. I didn't. Obviously, you don't enjoy seeing.
No, I didn't have to. I didn't have to commute for a year or 2 years, so that was great.
Oh, I was working like crazy, but because you know what we do, there's a lot of places that had to stay open. They need copy machines. A lot of nursing homes. You know, I don't miss having to wear the mask in every single place that you went, and do this and do that and do this. You know, but anyway, I don't want to talk that.
Yeah, it's glad it's all behind us, and that's what I suppose. It's nice it's behind us. It was just you brought up the stark difference, I suppose, what we had and our kids had. But,
Oh, it is.
It's all behind us now. Thank goodness.
So where do you want to see your channel going? I mean, is there somewhere that you look?
Where do I want to see it going? I don't know is the honest answer. It's what I wanted to do so far. I've achieved. I have a small audience. I have a couple of regular viewers who are really nice to take the time to comment on my videos, which I do really appreciate that so much. I've got to meet loads of people.
You have 1,300 subscribers. You have more than a small audience.
But only some return. Like you only like you get when you see someone comment on a video, and then the name pops up again another time. You're like, oh my god, that person, has taken the time to come back to my channel and watch my video again, and taken the time to leave a comment. And to me, it's that personal touch that I like, or that personal one-on-one thing that gets achieved that I've enjoyed. So I would like to do a couple of more live streams, because I know I did a couple this year and you were so generous with your time. You came onto it with Chris and we had a chat. So that was enjoyable, and I would like to sort of maybe do a couple more, and I just need to sort of find a particular topic or whatever else to discuss. But it was great just to get, like, you're from the US, Chris was from the UK, I'm from sort of the EU, and it was great to get sort of 3 different perspectives over the one topic, and that was kind of what I love sinking my teeth into, getting to chat to people.
Yeah.
And like I said, I want a different opinion. I want to hear a different view all the time. I always want to see something from a different perspective. So it was so awesome getting to chat to you two guys. So maybe if I got to do that a few more times before the end of, well, not the end of the year, maybe in 2024, if I got to do that a few more times, that would be awesome.
And I have to say, like, this show, I mean, I do the live show on Monday. It can be frustrating. I will spend a day at times on Sunday going through pictures and different things. Now, it's going to be easier now because I have a new computer. I don't have to have slides, but I like doing slides because it leads down, you know. And then we, you know, on Thursday we go between the movies and this show. And the movies take a long time. You got to watch a movie, I got to take pictures, do whatever. This here I absolutely love. Some people I know very well that I talk to. And then there's other people where, like, I met you before, so we had somewhat of a connection, but I really didn't know that much about you. There have been a couple people I knew nothing about. I have been lucky that I haven't had any where I've had to feel like I'm pulling teeth and I know it's going to happen eventually. Uh, there's a sportscaster here, Jim Rome. He does like a 3-hour show, and he talks about it. Like the best interviews are conversations, and that's what I was looking for.
For sure.
And I enjoy this because I'm getting to know you. Other people are getting to know you, or whoever I have on, and you can see I have nothing written down. I did the first couple, but after that, it was just kind of like, listen, I'm going to ask you about like how old you are. How your family was growing up. We're going to get into what toys you started playing with when you got out of them. But I'm going to let the conversation lead to where it's going to go. And I don't know if you've watched any of the other ones.
Oh, for sure.
There's been a couple really dark ones. A couple really dark ones that, that two guys went down, talking about, trying to take their own lives. And, it was after the first one, more than a few people messaged me and said, you handled that really well, which made me feel really good. Like they wanted to talk about it. Like for the first one, obviously, like he needed to talk about it. And he, I think he was, I don't want to say waiting. He wasn't looking to ambush me at all. It was Oz's show. I mean, he wanted to discuss it. And they're like, you handled it really well. You let him talk. You didn't try and cut him off.
For sure.
And
you gave the space and you allowed him the space and freedom to talk about it.
Was just like when you brought up how your brother had passed away. A little bit different, but it was like, all right, well, I'm not going to go down that road unless you want to talk about it. But then you did talk a little bit about it. Yeah. And you even made a little joke about it, that the fact that someone in Ireland could get skin cancer. And I find like those things are those things where like you have to, there's so much that you can joke about and so much you can't. Everyone will always say, "Oh, I'm so sorry about your mom." Like, I was 13 years old. I mean, thank you, but it was a long time ago. I spent way more years on this earth without her than when I had her. And again, it doesn't mean that I don't wish she wasn't here. But, it's like if someone wants to talk about something, you just kind of got to let them. And no one was really doing anything like this in our community. Everyone wanted to talk toys with someone. So they'd have you on and they just want to talk to you toys. And I'm like, I want to get to, like, my whole thing was always like, I'm reading these comments. I'm in these chats and I'm seeing, like Thanos Copter, and I'm seeing, Action Figs, and I'm seeing, whoever it is, Chaz the Guru. And it's like, I want to know more about them. Not so much they're collecting, because I can see what they collect. Yeah. And I see them on live streams, and all you do is you basically talk about toys. I want to get to know someone. I want other people. And if someone's willing to come on here and open themselves up and talk about it, I think it's great. And we've even had to, when we've done these live, my moderators many times had to jump in and go, hey, that's not what this show is about. We're not talking like the G.I. Joe that was just released. We may discuss it quickly because it's out, it just happened. It happened a couple times, but there was a few times. There was one guy that said, okay, great, I'm out. Like, not rude. He was just like, okay, well, I'm out. Like, I came to discuss the toys. And I found it hilarious because he wasn't rude about it. He's like, okay, dude, I'm out. Like, no problem.
Knock honesty.
But I think, like, again, the live streams, they're these ones to me are the most enjoyable because you're just sitting down, you're having a conversation, but you're letting everybody in.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. I think I've said this before. I love doing them live and the interaction with the chat, but I don't mind doing the pre-recorded ones because that means I know on Thursday I don't really have to do anything. It's plugged, it's done, it's locked, it's loaded. I'm gonna sit down usually in the chat, so I can read the chat. But the first one that I had done was Shark Eyes, and I was in Florida, so until the end of it, I really wasn't able to jump on. I had jumped on a few times because we were actually in line for like the Haunted Mansion and stuff. But everyone already had known that. But all the other ones, I've been in the chat. Because neither guy that I did, one was Lenny and one was Usual Mike. Neither one, I don't think Usual Mike was available, and Lenny doesn't want to really be. He doesn't like reading the chats because I know as a designer and people are just mean, just mean. Like the guy's designing toys, you don't attack him and other people. Like it didn't make any sense. But like I said, I enjoy all this. I don't know how I ended up talking so much, but but I think if you want to do lives, I think you do a really good job.
Yeah, just something different, a bit more of a challenge. But like I said, it will, topic based with different opinions, just to
and everyone's going to do different things. And like I said, you have a very good voice, and I like your channel. I like the way you do your videos. Again, you have a nice accent where I don't feel like I can't understand you. And I'm kind of looking at your lives and realized that the one that I was on, you only have 4. Still has the highest views. So I have to pat myself on the back. But quickly, let me show. So this is Connor's YouTube channel. I just like the fact that I can do this now and not freeze up. It has been such a pain. It's been such a pain in the ass that I'm just like so happy. Like, hey, look at this! I can be like other YouTubers and show stuff. So this is his page, Fuller's Figures. At the top, you can see his non-collection of collectible toys. From Star Wars to Valaverse to G.I. Joe. And then
I forgot about
an Instagram page, which you got a good amount of followers here also. I can tell you're not doing the I'm going to follow you and hope you just follow me back, because you're only following 251 people. We were just discussing this the other day, how people follow and then they unfollow, then they follow, and it's like, you just want me to follow you, leave me alone.
Yeah, so why did I stop following people back? I think when I start following people I connected with or that, so I think when it comes to following, I think it's more based on interaction than anything. So if of course, if I come across someone's page and I like their stuff, I'm going to follow them. But I'm going to leave a comment and say, "Hey, nice shot, nice pick," or whatever else. So
yeah,
I think so. So it's more about interaction for me. So if someone reaches out and says, "Oh, hey, nice pick," or "I liked your video," it's like, okay, and actually, I think interact with this is where I've got the interest in.
I think it was on your show that we were talking about how there are people that follow you and they expect to follow back. And it's like, well, do you have content that I enjoy? I mean, you can follow me.
Not even about that. And I suppose, it's people have to, people don't have to understand. I'd like people to have an understanding that what we do for fun, but we do it in our spare times, The 2 individuals on the screen here happen to be dads, have
Someone froze up.
Have I dropped there?
Yeah, you froze up. I hope it wasn't.
Sorry. So no, it's awesome. It's awesome when people want to look and interact or whatever else. But then, you know, people, yeah, I don't want to get into a chase game for likes or follows, and I don't have I've zero tolerance for someone coming along and just leaving a nasty comment or a silly comment
Yeah.
just for the sake of it. It's like, pal, you know, I've had a busy day. You had your say, you know, away with you. Good luck. So,
Do you use the YouTube app by any chance? So you have to drop a video,
to
like not YouTube, but the it's called the YouTube Studio app.
no, I upload it to the
So
YouTube app, not just studio. Sorry.
the issue with the YouTube Studio app is on the first page, it gives you the first 3 comments of any of your videos that someone has, like the 3 latest comments. It doesn't matter what video it is, and now there's also a place for comments, and it will just give you the first one. So now, if someone is replying, it doesn't show up, right? My biggest issue is sometimes someone will leave a comment that you just rather heart or like. There's really no reason to. There's nothing to really reply to. But the problem is, until you reply to it, it won't go away. So a lot of times you'll see a lot of thumbs up by me, or the muscle sign, because I'm like, I just need to get this off of my page so I can see the next comments, because it'll always be there at the top if I reply to other comments. And I'm like, I wish I could just like, all right, off. Like I hearted it and said I liked it, boom.
But it
That's why a
sits
lot
there.
of people will get like the thumbs up. I'm like, awesome. I don't know what else to say, you know. You didn't.
Yeah, I can be bad at answering comments because not a deliberate thing, but you know, you're working all day, you're trying to commute, you come home. I try to set aside time to sit down and actually answer comments, because if I'm answering a comment, I want to give an answer. I don't want to just say, "Hey, thanks," whatever else. So someone's taken their time to leave a message. I want to take my time to respond to it, but I nearly put myself under pressure that it might be a week or two before I get back around to it. And I hope that doesn't upset people. But the reason is I genuinely don't want to answer the comment that you've taken time for. So that's why there'll just be a bit of a delay.
So I think some people, I mean, people notice if you never make comments, but not everyone is expecting a comment. But I can tell you this. I try and reply to every comment, right? And the last 2 videos, the hawk that I dropped earlier today, there's 16 comments. I haven't replied to one. The shockwave, there's 36. That's not even other comments on other videos that someone went to. That this girl Danny, she has now replied to a few old live streams, because she'll go back and she'll watch them and she'll make comments, and eventually I'm going back and I'm going to answer to some of them. But hell, half the time, like someone made a comment about my the G.I. Joe movie figures, not the Red Ninja, but it was the Red Ninja and the other one, the kid toys. And it's like, okay, shaky hands, something like that. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, that video was done so long ago. I have no idea what he's like referring to. So like sometimes people will reference something in a video that I did 6 months ago, and I'm thinking, man, I've done like 30 reviews since then.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a little.
No, but it is. You look back to get all that free time.
Yeah, when it's fresh, it's one thing. And here's the other thing. My videos are running anywhere from like 20 to 30 minutes. You think I'm going to go back and watch the whole damn thing again to answer one question? It's like sometimes it'll be something I recognize right away. The other thing was when I get something wrong, and there's actually been a couple times that I got something wrong. I'll pin the comment. Hey, I got this wrong. I'm sorry. And next thing I know, there's like 5 or 6 people that are telling me I got it wrong. And it's like, can you read the comments that I pinned? I already admitted. You don't have to tell me. Now, some people are just being very nice about it.
Yeah. No.
That's how the Ripper video went about my O-ring having the wrong waist.
Didn't see that one.
So I'm sorry, the buzzer video. So I did the buzzer video and I compared it to the O-ring and I talked about how the waist is different. Like, and Mr. Popinski was the first one. He hit me up and he goes, you know that your O-ring buzzer has the wrong waist.
Oh, dude. The original, right.
And I went, oh crap. So I believe I pinned the comment and I made like, hey, I got this wrong. I know. There's like 5 or 6 more people that have now pointed it out. I go downstairs. Mind you, all those. So Zorana, Zartan, Xandar, Monkey Wrench, Torch, Buzzer, Ripper, Thrasher are all my original Dreadnoks from when I was a kid. So I go down. I look at my Ripper. I can tell that he has Buzzer's pants on because he has those big skulls. I open up the book, the G.I. Joe catalog there, and I'm looking and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Torch, Monkey Wrench, Buzzer, and Ripper. I have all of their wastes, but they're all on different people.
All swapped out.
So I had to take them all apart, which aggravated me. But the same thing happened to me on Flint. So somewhere along the line when I was a kid, I swapped them out fixing the O-ring and didn't put them back on because I didn't have a book and they're all wearing jeans. So the color matches very well. And
you wouldn't have thought about that as a kid.
The same thing happened with my Flint when I did the Flint review. Now, God knows how anyone noticed that I had the wrong Flint body on, or I had the wrong Flint legs, other than I pointed it out. But that's when I didn't really know how to do videos. You watch those early videos, and I'm like, yeah, look at this. How powerful did I think my iPhone camera was? I think I was using like an iPhone 8.
Yeah, I think that's what I started with as well, actually, the iPhone 8. Yeah.
But someone had pointed it out.
It was 6.
I went downstairs and there was like 6 figures that I had the wrong waist on. One of them was Heavy Metal. The Mauler driver. I had 3 of them. And the only reason why I knew the one had the right waist was because I bought him shortly after my ex and I had split up because I bought this big, huge lot. So I knew one of them was correct. And that one he was mint. So I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh my God, like both of these Heavy Metals have the wrong waist. Now I got to figure out whose waist they are. And I'm going through that book and I'm like, so I got to find Flint's waist. So I was able to find, I found them all and I fixed them all. You're like, oh, it looks like these legs are a little bit different. They changed this, that, and someone was like, those are the wrong legs. And I'm like, okay, let me go see. Sure enough, I open the book and I'm like, damn it.
Hey, if nothing else, at least they're all right now, so they're all correct now.
But the Dreadnoks got me. Like, and when I looked at it, I'm like, oh, what am I wrong? But again, these are all my childhood toys. So you change them, and you're changing the O-rings. You're not always doing it. Half the time when I fix an O-ring, I was taking a rubber band and doubling it up because we didn't know what O-rings were. Or you're taking it off an old figure that the leg is broken or the thumbs are broken, and you've replaced them.
Putting it back together.
So, but yeah, that was my issue with the with my buzzer video, and I'm like, and it's even worse because that skull is like so prominent. I'm like, that would have been perfect part of the video showing like how close they are.
But yeah,
Oh well, live and learn.
I hadn't seen it because I'm not. I don't think we're getting that buzzer figure till February next year. So
That's what they have as the date, but they're popping up everywhere. Ripper is the only one that hasn't popped up. Actually, my local store, which we don't get stuff anything, my local store just got Helix and Hawken. Now I ordered them from a Canadian distributor, and they have everything but Ripper in stock. BBTS got Buzzer and Helix. They got Buzzer, then Helix came in. Very odd, but they also did that with the Crimson Guard last year or over a year ago. The Crimson Guard came in, and then the Dusty and Zarana were nowhere to be found. That's when Hasbro started doing their straight packs of figures. So
they stopped mixing
yeah.
them. Yeah.
So the canister, whatever it is, with the Crimson Guard came in, and I was lucky enough to get one. It was before I was monetized, so the video did great. It sucks when you can make a little bit of profit. I wasn't monetized yet.
Yeah, but then I suppose you're set up now that if it happens again.
Well, that's what happened with Buzzer. I was the first person to get a Buzzer review out there.
No way, were you?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And that was all luck because if you order from BBTS, so they have the $4 shipping, and I know it's different for you guys. So if you get like one figure and you do the $4 shipping, it goes out. It's called DHL. It is the slowest moving process ever. I watched my Helix. I ordered it right away. It went out DHL like that next day. Here's Michigan. It's coming from Wisconsin. It left Wisconsin, went through Ohio, and like this is Michigan, so Wisconsin's here. It went across in Ohio to about here, and then it had to come back up. Now, mind you, there is a state underneath it called Illinois. It could have just crossed over right in. But with Buzzer, I already had the Motu glow-in-the-dark skeletons that were sitting on my pile of loot. So they have to use a bigger box. So when you use a bigger box, it ships out FedEx. So I got it right away.
Oh, sweet.
So I got it up, boom, got it up. And again, I don't think, being the first is good. But again, someone got one up like 3 hours after I did. And he only had like 500 views after like a week. And that's just because he's not in the algorithm.
It's funny the way it goes, isn't it? Sometimes they just don't hit the wave and get carried in.
When you're in the algorithm, everything just populates like you wouldn't believe. It's and again, sometimes they go batshit crazy. Other times, I've noticed, I feel like if I get something right away, it does good. If I get something after, other people have reviewed it. But if it's like a few people have reviewed it right away, and then I get it during the initial launch and other people are reviewing it, it doesn't do that well. Because now it's like you're in that middle, like just so many people doing the reviews. Or if you get it right away, people see it. And then if you get it a little bit after maybe that initial pack of reviews, now people haven't come back and seen it, and they're like, "Oh, okay." But I just do them when they come out.
It's funny that I did a few that I was late getting to, and they did okay for me. I was surprised at some of them because the way we're getting stuff now for G.I. Joe, they're not allowed to come through fan channel anymore in Ireland. It's through Hasbro Pulse only in the EU.
So you know what?
They're shipping from Germany. So when we get a shipping notification, it's taking up to 7 to 8 days to get here.
It's crazy what I cannot believe they're doing stuff like that. I don't understand what Pulse is doing or Hasbro in general is doing. That whole thing was just crazy. So, but yeah, it's just one of those crazy things.
It's meant then that so you get all these super duper stream and extra special stream, and mega cool announcement stream that they do, and all this hype and everything else, and you have to, you've 30 seconds to drop your pre-order, or you're never ever going to get this ever again. So what's after happening is that the Hasbro Pulse thing, it's now giving me time to think. And I went in there last week and I cancelled the Nighthawk Tunnel Rat because I don't want that figure. I cancelled the Mole Rat. I cancelled I cancelled Chuckles because I never had Chuckles. I had no affiliation for the figure. So
Chuckles, can I say something? Chuckles is way better than I thought he was going to be. I have no affiliation to him either. I never had him as a kid. I thought he was stupid. When I got him in hand, I was like, this figure is way better than I thought he was going to be. I'm just saying, like.
Yeah, but if I ever pick one up for
wait a minute. You are taking pictures on a beach. You need to have Chuckles.
I wasn't paying €55 for him. He's like so overpriced, and I got with the Snow Serpent. I really got stung bad because I didn't mind getting a deluxe pack with extra accessories. I love accessories, right? Accessories are such a big part of this, but when he came with the wolf pelt and the snowboard, I was like, they don't make sense. He's not going to snowboard with a wolf pelt on. It's just, stuff was kind of just thrown in for the sake of it. I kind of got that. So I said, I'm going to peel back on the deluxe figures now, unless it's I see value for it. And then with the waiting time, with the fear of missing out, pre-order, everything, I just sat back and I went through some of them and I was like, well, no, do you know what? I don't want that. I don't want that. So actually, they've lost money from me as a customer, where if I had bought that from my local, if I dropped that pre-order from my local store, I just would have gone and collected it when it was in. But now, because they're taking so long to ship from Hasbro Pulse Germany, it's given me time to think, and then I've cancelled a few.
So you are getting Hasbro Pulse now, but it's out of Germany?
So they're based in Germany. So
okay.
It's Hasbro Pulse EU, so it's within the European Union. So that's why they can ship it without having to pay customs.
Well, that's better for you. I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole thing. We discussed that on your channel with how everything goes through Pulse for G.I. Joe, which I think is BS. There's no reason why you shouldn't be selling to. Are they still doing that, or have they changed that?
No. It's just G.I. Joe. So all their other lines are available in retailers. Just G.I. Joe.
It's such a big property. It's all cash for them, and people want to buy it. People want to carry it. That stuff is absolutely crazy.
Look, it is what it is. We move on with life.
Yeah, you nailed it. It is what it is. But anyway, I want to say thank you for coming on. I am going to put links to your YouTube channel and Instagram. Is there anything else that you want to say before we wrap this up?
No, I just want to thank you for inviting me on. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always, to get to talk to you, because I think you're a fun guy and I do like chatting to you. So when you asked me on, I was really excited to get this opportunity for us to sit down and chat again. Hopefully someday there'll be a nice pint of Guinness between us while we're doing this, but look, we'll see what the future holds for that. But for anyone that was watching here, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for watching. And yeah, thanks so much for inviting me on, Lawrence. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to chat to you.
Oh, yeah, it's so much fun. And you gave me 3 hours. I mean, these things are going longer and longer. My whole idea was I started at 10. I'll be done at midnight. And it started running past that. So I'm like, I'm bumping it down to 9 o'clock. And I did Jay Bartlett was my last one. And we started at 9. We finished up at 12:30. I'm like, I got to stop this. I have to set limits. So.
Look, you get a few of us together. We just love talking figures. So this happens.
That's exactly what it is. And again, you're just having a conversation. And
for sure.
I mentioned before, I spoke to Lenny for 5 hours. We only recorded 2.5.
Wow.
So yeah,
that was such a cool interview. Like what a cool guy. Like just hearing what he was interested in growing up and getting to do what he does now and bringing that joy back to us as we're still lovers of G.I. Joe, but that phenomenal. And that was such a cool interview. I really enjoyed that.
And honestly, I love and thank you. I mean, honestly, like anytime someone tells me any interview that I did, hey, you know what, that was a great interview. I really enjoyed it. The Lenny one, as you might imagine, I get the most. Am I freezing up?
No, you're okay.
Okay. I get the most out of that because there's so many different people, not just subscribers to the channel or followers of mine that have watched it. But a lot of people, they're like, hey, he seems so comfortable. He seems so happy just talking. And one of the first things he said to me was, yeah, this seems really chill. I like it. Because I think he's just, they get tired. Like they're going to be grilled about everything. And I was like, I would love to talk about G.I. Joe, and I would love to sit here and pick your brain for hours, but I also know you're not going to be able to answer certain things. I want to know about you. And finding out that he worked in the graveyard, that he was in a metal band, it's like, that's the type of stuff that I want to get out of these interviews and what other people want to know. Finding out again, I didn't ask you, hey, where does your name come from? Well, it was kind of easy to figure out. Your name is Counter Fuller, you're full of figures. But Usual Mike, he had a story behind his name, and he's like, I wasn't expecting that. And I'm like, awesome. Like, that's like B's Battleground. His name is Bobby B. All right, well, that's where B's Battleground comes from. He was in the military. I don't need to be a genius. But for me, I can't express how many times people have said, so like, are you a punk with toys, or are you like a punk rocker with toys? And I'm like, well, it's the plan. The plan works. I'm a punk rocker with toys. Like but it's amazing how many people don't get that. Not to mention, like, do you not see the shirts that I wear half the time?
Over here, a punk is a punk rocker. Yeah. I know. So I know in the States you might say, hey, give it up, you punk kid. But over here, if someone turns around and says, no, I'm a punk, you know exactly what they're into, what they like, and what their interest in music is. So
yeah, you might understand. I don't really say like, dude, the kid's just a punk. I don't really use that term because to me it's you're a punk rocker. I don't like using punk rocker because I don't think I need to add the rocker onto it. You're just like I said, I would be like, that kid's just a punk. Just leave him alone. He's just a punk. Like I say you're a punk, it's because I think you're a punk rocker. But anyway, let's wrap this up. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
It was great. I hope everyone sat through the whole thing because you're going to learn a lot. And again, when you do live streams, if you need, if we can work out the times, anytime you want to do something, you let me know. If I can do it, I'm more than happy to jump out and help out people that I actually enjoy. So
cheers. Thank you for that.
All right. No, everyone, thank you guys for watching. Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving. Although we'll be after Thanksgiving now, but you know what I mean.
They're all sitting there stuffed from turkey.
Yes. Have a wonderful night. Good night, guys.